So moved.
Okay.
Second, were we going to amend the agenda for
Yes.
this morning to remove study session 7A?
Yes, we are.
That's all the chairman has to do is say that 7A is being stricken from the agenda. We don't have to vote on that.
7A is stricken from the agenda. Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. First up, Marilyn Kennedy, Election Deputy Auditor's Office. Canvass of city and school election and to authorize auditor to pay election costs.
Clarify, she's not the election deputy, she's election manager?
Administrator.
Administrator.
Administrator, okay, instead of deputy, it's election administrator.
You ready?
Yes.
So election 2 went off well. Learned a lot. Have a lot for you guys to sign. We had, we believe, 14%.
Can you give the red one to Scott?
Do you want me to start at different places?
Yeah, because there's
Okay.
a lot of signatures there.
I'll give you each one. This is just one per, whoops. So you guys be done quickly. I think we had about 14%. Biggest turnout was probably Los Central. We think they probably had about 3,000 voters turn out. I think election day showed 8,200. So not a real good turnout, but
Well, it's probably better than normal with those bond issues on there.
I'll make a motion to canvass the city school election and
Oh, I'm
authorize
sorry.
the auditor to pay election costs.
Got a motion? Need a second?
I'll second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Thank you, Tim.
Is there you have a lobbyist, right? The auditors have a lobbyist.
Yes,
We need to get this changed,
get what changed?
to sign all of these.
Oh, okay. Put that into our legislative policy next year.
I mean, you know, it depends, but I think just the chairman should sign it, unless I'm the chairman.
We'll be signing all of the certificates. How many elected officials did we end up with?
this round is 64, but this doesn't include any of the shared school districts. So it doesn't have HST, Trainer, or
Trainer?
Tri-Center. Trainer shares with Mills County,
There are some down there, aren't there?
like 2, but still don't have that, so.
Well, aren't there? Little Central has some in Mills County.
Well, we're Los Central.
Okay.
Okay, Susan, do I sign this and pass all this around?
Yep.
I'm just keeping mine all in
Maybe
my
finish the
file.
whole packet and then pass the packet.
He only has the one because he's got the canvas results.
Pass it to you. Okay.
So you learned a lot this time, right?
I did learn a lot. A lot of phone calls. Other auditors. We did talk to Christie. The Secretary of State prefers no phone calls now. They want to do everything by email. So if you need something, you send them an email, and if you're worthy of a phone call, they'll call. Otherwise, they send you an email back.
Timely?
It's the state.
It's probably not as bad as it could be. But, you know, when you're wanting to do something and you're waiting, you know, it's not 2 minutes always.
Get a precinct on hold.
Not so much on election day, it's like when I'm finishing stuff and so they did a whole different process even this year than Christie was familiar with. I had to send a pre-race setup and so that they knew all of our races and how long they were running, and Christie says, that's new. She's not ever done that before. They've always taken it off of what ES&S sends her, or sends them. It was a her, but it's not
Mitch.
anymore.
Mitch, did Spring Hour get in?
What, 2 votes?
I think they're 4.
3 votes.
I don't think, you didn't have any contests over there, did you?
Oh, yeah.
There were some contested
We had
ones?
6 running for 5. Mark.
Okay. When Avoca, we don't have to do an Avoca,
Here, Susan,
Runoff.
keep these
No
together,
runoff.
I'll bring, I have some more.
Okay.
I don't know what triggers the runoff.
If I remember right, they have to have 35, they have to have majority, so they have to have 50%
Can you
plus
give
one,
half of
or is
your
it
pie?
35%?
Well, how many
I wanna
seats?
say it's 35%.
How many seats, depends on how many seats.
Yeah, and I think they had 2 seats up.
No.
You had all the votes up, and then you have to
Right, well,
times
right,
it
yeah,
by
there's,
how many candidates
well, it's kinda
divided by,
like for the supervisors.
yeah.
Marilyn, do these need a wet signature?
All of them, I believe. Is that what you mean?
No, because if you use a stamp,
I don't know. I can check with the Secretary of State.
He's just trying to make it easier for you.
Or make it harder for me. Or it would be Jeanette, I guess, wouldn't it?
so you're following me.
Well, I guess I got, so many of these?
Huh? Let me go get you some.
Sure. Get it sometime. We'll need to get it sometime.
So where do you want these to go to?
Go to the next guy, I guess.
Me, I'm
Send them to
almost
you?
done.
Okay. I'm gonna go and pick those.
Who's this Mitchell
Grab
Cup?
Jeff's.
Jeff? Yeah.
There's that.
No. I mean, the red one with the red one, the blue one. I have those.
You what?
I have half of those.
You gotta flip them, man.
Lost my spot.
So I have to sign a bunch of this stuff too?
Yeah, you get to sign it all as well.
Does it have to be done today?
They're waiting for him. Schools are waiting for him. There's a few that are ready for you.
Get them out of the road. Take these out.
Okay.
Marilyn, do you gotta sign each of these?
I do not.
I do.
Melvin gets to. So when you need to go to them and Scott, so which ended, then you go to Scott. After you,
Chairperson.
Scott and Brian still.
There is, what are you gonna do about that? Didn't someone win the city election and then they had a vacancy, won the vacancy too?
School,
School board.
Lewis Central School. So he gets the right to decide which one he wants. I heard rumor, I haven't heard from anyone at Lewis Central that he is going to go to take the 4-year, which he ran for, and then they'll appoint.
How long's he got to decide?
You know, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if they actually have to wait until they,
Here,
until they actually have their organizational meeting or.
just keep coming.
Okay, I'll let you decide which way to go with these.
I'll finish their blue ones, and then she can hand them over to Brian.
The chairman looks like.
Tim, you wanna sign these two, just those out of the way? Good try not getting it done. For those stuff.
Yeah, but they're separated from the other blue ones. No, these are not done. Brian needs to
He's
sign.
finishing,
Brian needs to sign these.
and Melvin's finishing the last of the blues.
Okay, so you want me to hold them or?
Yeah,
Okay.
just finish the red ones. Okay.
It was a little faster when Marilyn Jo Drake's not here. she was very diligent on her penmanship and signing.
Oh. She does have very nice handwriting.
Yes, she does.
Mine is not like hers, nor is yours. That's okay.
I learned to sign my name in 1 second when I was in the service. I signed for everything.
And yours is the longest one.
Fingers are dry today.
Need some lotion on your back.
I should. Why some of that little sticky stuff? Those little eggs that's got that
Yeah, the
sticky
quick
stuff.
sort.
Hmm?
Quick sorts?
Ross, how we doing
Well,
this
it's
morning?
Oh,
The team shirts. Team shirts.
Can you stay around?
Yeah. Morning.
blue ones are all done.
Keep these in order?
Here's your colored clippies.
Thank you. Where's the rest of the blues?
Well, there's some blues there. That's just a single sheet.
Oh, okay.
This is a single sheet.
No,
Brian still needs to.
not exactly. I didn't read them all.
Just one sheet on each of those, that's it?
I think you've read anything.
Okay. No, I can do these.
Well, I kind of know what, who won, who didn't win.
Oh, that was all based on the reaction of the football game on Saturday?
Yeah.
That's-
You made the news, did you see?
Paper?
You made the paper too?
Yeah.
Called.
Or
He was on the ballot twice.
You know Washington guys there?
James.
James. You voted in Oakland? Or
Yeah.
if you voted on Tuesday then?
Okay, whenever you're done, Tim,
I was
here's the rest of
surprised I
those.
stopped in Oakland.
I've already got
I know you did, but
Oh.
keep them together,
There was Underwood ballots.
if you would.
Or school ballots.
I used to drive to school teaching and
How's
training
Danny doing anyway?
almost every day. I would meet, that was before Oakland was Riverside, I met at Oakland. Oakland bus, the Tri-Center bus, an Underwood bus, and a trailer bus. I'm just in that 20 miles to train. So,
Man, I won't. Marilyn,
well, save that legs. You almost got
I
your
can come in and
nose
speak
wrong.
at a public hearing.
Can't trust you. It'll just be Brian Melvin House.
there you go.
We started on that. Oh.
Brian just made a faux pas. Oh, he just crossed it out.
No, I don't think you can.
He did.
No, I dotted the I, dotted the I.
Okay,
I'll put that in my book and not send it out maybe.
Oh, that's just one.
Yeah, that's just the results.
Okay.
That's the same.
Same thing? Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Do these need to stay in order?
Yeah,
The certificates, I can put them back if they get messed up, but
she's gotta send them off to the school, city.
as long as they all get signed, it doesn't matter what order, we can fix that.
Yes.
Well, you could have taken this out there.
That's a good question, Melvin. Can we get a stamp, Mr. Stamp? Can we get a stamp?
Could be, I think on these though, the candidates might like their little certificate
I see.
in real ink.
Mitch probably has his frames already bought, put them on the wall.
I was gonna say, so their children can throw them away when they.
Yes, I did. I did see that on the news. Did you?
I don't know, I didn't my mom's nothing. Oh, it was just plaques, and she's like, just a boy.
I know, I think this is where my sister. Yeah. Yeah, my sister. What she never actually was. You know what, I just saw the big. Yeah.
And it's kind of there.
She passed away when that was right now, but.
You know what, I'm trying to make sure, I think I'm getting them mixed up with the guy that used to be reporter for the world.
You'll be all right.
My sister was out there in September. And now.
I did the same thing twice, because my mom was moving around with my grandma. My mom lived in Rainbow. So we bought the house, because we were just coming back from. So we got our nice baby.
Yeah.
We still have the floor, so there's stuff. And my mom and dad still have the house there.
Yeah.
They still have their stuff. My mom.
No.
My mom. And my girls were like, I said, I know, I said, you wanna just go away, I'll never know what's going on.
That's, I can't throw those like that away, I have to like go through every box, and so my.
Well, one, you have to check.
Yeah. And my siblings are all drunk, and I have to save everything, and so I let them take things out, let them know they're not gonna go, they're not gonna go. So I would walk away, because it was just so much.
But you know, my mom, I don't know how much my mom found
I've got the wet ink. That's you, Jeff?
No, that's Jeff's.
Yeah.
Is that?
Oh, your liquid, your ink is not gel ink, it's
Oh,
smear ink.
Here, Tim, you want these? Melvin's done those, so.
Sure.
Can you print another one of those?
Hmm.
I think we printed a lot of them if I did that.
Marilyn, here's a pile that's done.
Is that what you're saying?
Thank you. Pardon?
The end is near, is that what you're saying?
Not all the way done, almost done.
What I did those,
You didn't do the blue ones. Maybe you didn't do them all. I'll go
I didn't
and
do
see
all.
which ones you haven't done.
I didn't realize my ink was smearing.
Yeah,
I changed pens.
well, no, this one's fine. I think if I said we could reprint those and redo them, people would revolt against me, but. Well, that you did any of the blue ones, Melon.
well, I did a bunch of blue ones. Did they get separated into two piles?
Oh, yep, here's the start of you, I think.
I think I'm done.
Send all this stuff to the Secretary of State.
I think I sent them in to the Secretary of State. I keep a copy in our office, and then I believe that I send it to, like, the entities it belongs to.
Okay. Keep it for 22 months.
This stuff, I think I keep it forever. It's in binders in the office.
They do.
Okay, so.
You have 40% on here somewhere.
I'll send it.
Yeah, I got a letter today from a lady that's unhappy. She lives out in York Township. Her address is Minden, but her school district is Underwood. And the letter we sent, it should have told her what polling location she went to because she went to Underwood school, because that's where she's always voting.
Up until 2015 maybe or something.
I don't know. I didn't know whether I needed to call her back, but that was not on our requirements of telling them where they had to go vote. On that list, the secretary sent
Oh,
us.
well, yeah. Well, we had that trouble for years with the school election. Only in the general election, we'll go to church.
Yeah.
And Charles
And at some point that changed.
Red Cloud is already on the old council.
1980.
When we did combined city schools, probably, but I don't remember when that was.
19, I think.
I think so. I was just looking in those books, just looking to see, I was looking so I didn't have to ask someone else. Okay, what do I do? I was looking in Chrissy's books trying to get my answer.
I just remember it was in,
Looked like it was 19.
I think it was when Travis Wyker was president. Orange County, we had quite a discussion on how to, divide up the costs.
We need to call her, do you think, and
Call her.
explain that lady, or she didn't leave a phone number, I have her phone number off.
I had to call her and leave a message, so how long she lives in York, you said?
In York Township,
She will always vote in Oakland, I think York's.
Minden. They told her she had to go to Minden, but she
Okay.
says how many people just gave up and didn't vote at all because they were
None. She's
shipped
the
all
only
over.
one, she's the only one that's not.
No, according to the poll, there's a lot of people say they had to send different places.
Well, I suppose the school election was probably, she's Underwood School District, but votes in. But it's probably extra interest
Right,
with
there's
that
a public.
bond issue.
How screwed up is
I don't know. Josh is OCD, I'll give it to him.
Oh, that's a good idea. Put these in order. Put these in order, Josh. He is way worse than I am. I didn't think it was possible to find a man that would be worse than I am.
Well, that's good.
It is good. I like it. That's what we went down and looked at yesterday. Had all the stuff.
Oh, there's some hair.
Told him, I said, well, this is yours. You do what you want. He'll have that.
Have you been in the basement since
Yeah,
you
we
moved?
just went yesterday.
Oh, yeah, it doesn't look too bad.
Well, I kind of like it.
It's cool down there too.
It is cold.
I got a copy.
No, I don't think you have either. I know. Patient, thank you.
I thought there was somebody who's only the chairman. Maybe I'm thinking of,
That was the audit. I don't know.
maybe I'm thinking of, exemptions that were not approved.
Full house today.
Yep. Public hearing on the agreement.
New contract. And I don't want to do
Yeah. Signing that sheet. Sign the sheet.
near me, I'm in the,
Practicing my new signature.
I think
MJH, huh? Oh,
Rick Bell received his and it was unlegible text. I think that's what it was supposed to be.
yeah.
Hmm? I do too. Hi.
Hi.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good.
Marilyn, I hope this is the hardest thing you have to do today.
I don't know yet. Now I have to go, give everyone vote credits, so, we'll see.
You learned a lot though.
I am learning a lot. The only problem I have is, I do like it. It's actually once you get doing one of the tasks, it's like, well, it's kind of fun. And then it's like, but like last Wednesday, I literally came to work and I'm like, well, the election went well. Now what? And I'm just like looking at all my stuff thinking, where do I even start? Now, will I remember for 6 months?
Exactly, then you have to wait until the next one comes along.
So I have everything from you guys except for those.
Yeah.
Of course, if you would have just stayed and finished with the agenda. How are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing well.
I got Jim's letter. And he works with generation stations around the world.
I was gonna write a different one, but that one happened to be closest to the door. I went and bought another one last night.
Oh, well, that's good. Gotta beat that addiction.
Kind of anxious to work on it. It's a 1971. It's got 3,700 miles on it, which is nothing. It's been sitting and I'll go and you can run a BMW.
Right, are we done signing everything?
I think so. We're still in the meeting. You gotta,
I just got some stuff out there I was gonna do before the regular board meeting starts, but I mean, it'll only take 5 minutes.
I would say, do it.
We got 20 minutes.
Plug back in pretty soon.
We took the bicycles on the Wabash last night, or
Was that cool?
afternoon. Yeah,
Good.
another bike ride.
I think that's the end.
No, those.
Yeah.
And now
And
we
then
got
Tim has
Tim
a
needs
few
to sign
certificates
some.
we're waiting.
You got to.
Maybe he thinks he's done, that's what he's not.
I don't need to. After a motion has been made in the public hearing, we will hear the report of staff on the budget.
You have just a few and then we're done, I think.
Have we? Matt Wyatt speak a little bit before we open public hearing.
Somebody would, I guess, Mitch would say, very soon.
Pardon?
I'm not sure why.
Well, just to kind of,
One of those central 860.
There was one of
so
them that only
just,
needed
Matt don't
1%.
have to speak.
What was it?
Huh?
I don't think there's really much to fund yet.
Okay.
I think we give them a week then.
Oh, because that was a save, that was how to spend their grant money.
Oh.
That's what Tri Center did.
Yeah, to save state Iowa advanced vision.
I thought you should be silent. But it was the lost money that went to the school. It was just lost book vouchers, sales tax money.
Hey Melvin, we got a bunch of people signing up already.
Cell phone storage.
Yeah, I did. We just put a bunch more on.
Oh.
I don't know. But I had a third table, that's in the cabinet.
I don't know, I don't know.
Huh?
What's the Bronker's name? Girl's name? I was wrong all the way.
Christine or Christie?
Thank you, all of them, for signing them with such a happy face.
Where's our treat?
Treat? They didn't tell me that.
Like at the
What do you
zoo.
want? I have all kinds of chocolate candy in my office. What would you like? Butterfinger, grapefruit, Reese's. You come get something whenever you're done.
Am I done?
I think you are finished.
Okay.
Yeah.
Grass, all this flat land.
Oh.
Am I done? I'll go to the men's room before we start.
Oh, Garfield.
Well, if everybody's got everything signed.
Am I dismissed then?
Yeah.
Jim?
Thank you.
Thanks, Marilyn.
I'll be back.
Is that okay?
Oh, okay.
Who knows?
Kristen,
Yes. Coming.
is Matt coming down?
Matt is in Lemon Trail today,
Awesome.
so no, you only have me.
So we don't. Making public comments, right?
I don't think you,
We don't get to debate with Shirley.
no. If you have like a yes or no response or something. Say that, but it's not a back and forth conversation. No, you don't have to.
Good.
I think that it's not like a public comment where there's no conversation, no.
Save this for later.
is open.
Can I take someone's seat?
No.
Oh, okay.
I think Matt was gonna be Maryland's spot.
Matt was gonna sit there and take.
Cause I can also go
I can grab a chip back there.
You can jump right here, you can go back here. If you want right here, you can jump back here. Oh, I already have the spot.
space for one more.
I will go wherever anyone points. Tell me where to go. Right?
Am I going on the other side here? Hello.
Hey, I don't know. I don't know whose things these are.
Well, that looks like Pam's. I'll fly over.
Pam told me to sit right here, so I listened to Pam.
We heard of him out of here.
Yeah. How are you? I'm doing well. Busy day.
Maybe it's a busy day. Hello. Good, how are you? Yep. Making sure all our main ones are still okay.
No, I'm not counting on it. Yeah, look.
Okay, that's it.
I'm sure there's one somewhere. I printed one, maybe the first gyration, but not from the first. Second, yeah.
Those were sure helpful.
Yeah. Yeah, I've got the hard copies that I carry around in more space.
They're not, where they're red lines or anything like that.
Not with the latest version.
Right.
I'm sure Pam's got them.
Yeah, we got red line version. Red line, red line for
No. Just whatever. Only that portion is all I sent.
Pardon?
Only that portion is what I sent.
It's been red line or
No, I think someone didn't want to go through it.
No, but it looks like you've been out in the wind. Looks like you've been out in the wind. Your tie is over your shoulder.
It's windy in the bathroom.
That was my guess.
I didn't want to drag it into the sink while I was washing my hands.
This is the entire. This is
Fill up.
but I don't know if it's the most.
Melvin, are we gonna move the podium?
Because there's chains on here. Or is it stay there? Oh, yeah. I thought you wanted it. Put you back in. Yeah, I'll give it to you afterwards. Okay.
Congratulations. Double win. Cosmic controversy. So who came off Underwood school board?
I was going to guess that. I thought he thought too. Well, that's good thing.
We'll spend the rest of your day in there.
I don't mind being in the courtroom.
Yeah?
But Those are little signature drills.
That's, what I started out. I hear you.
I started there.
It's a tough place to be. You can do some good, there's a few feel good moments, but most of it is just, it's a lot. Just toxic.
Everybody.
Oh, I 100% agree. And that's why I started, more at real estate, and then development, and then land, that's where the whole path here started off. Getting out of there, but it was pretty experience, I gotta say, you won't get in the courtroom more than any other type of law. So. Yeah. That's exactly how it works. Where were you? Where'd you go to law school?
Okay. Health and you too.
My dad was a graduate.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, cool. Yeah, that takes some time.
First hope is if they're out, you get a copy. How we wrote with that tree.
It'll come out better for it.
Make sure it
Doesn't
can be here for quite a while.
Yeah, we should have changed the video. It's hard to use.
Yeah.
Yes, I
Okay.
Yes, I am.
I don't.
Oh.
That's real, real fun stuff.
Michael,
Never took part in one.
how are you?
I'm doing well, how are you?
I'm good. 7:30 tomorrow?
Is that tomorrow? Yes, it is, I saw it from Tracy, tomorrow morning.
You're off.
We'll be here.
Just come on, 1:30, right?
Today? Yeah. We're done.
Tell Chairman to move them along. 30 seconds, you only get 30 seconds.
We had a nice discussion about it.
Really? Oh, I think it's great.
I don't know what happened, or is it?
No, Susan,
You're fine.
I'm not crazy about the wedding.
Actually, that I can kind of understand. But,
But it doesn't.
I like it to be able to ring it around. You wanna bring that up? Well, we don't have to this time.
no.
Do we do something? Central. Okay. Do they have a room for us?
Awesome. I was just saying, of all the counties, I think you guys have.
People that up there.
Yeah, we'll make sure they get it rotated.
No, so you just keep the people out. Rotate them in and out, so there's a couple of them out there, like 40 people out there too. I think more should come to the building. So they're always coming to you back.
Winter is coming. Can feel the dryness.
Oh my goodness. Can they organize between four against or?
We do 4 first,
Okay.
and then we do against after the 4 is done. That's the way it's.
Oh, no,
Well,
I haven't looked at
I'll ask
any of
people
that
to
yet.
rotate in and out so everyone can speak.
Okay, like 5
Now,
Thanks, Mark. Brian, I wanted to get to speak.
Are you gonna let the people out?
Well,
They say it could be worse.
I'm gonna ask you to keep it under 5 minutes. This ain't a public comment deal.
that's true.
But one of the things is keep repeating. We can say something at that point, you know. Melvin, we don't have a time limit on this, correct?
Well, you can put a time limit on it. They can't stand up there and talk for 20 minutes. I would say,
Well, you know, say.
like you do normally on public comments, I'd say just do 3 minutes, and then of course you're gonna run over here.
Kristen thought I should do 5.
Okay.
And then one of the things is so that it don't get repeated again.
And, but they cannot repeat what has already been said.
But if they're out in the hallway, they're not gonna know.
Well, Garfield,
We're gonna just rotate.
just ask them to be, and they will be compliant and orderly. Give everybody a chance, that's the whole point, giving everybody a chance.
Just do it on the lower first.
I can't hear you. TV, are these TV people here? No, I said, give you that clean sheet. Channel 3. Yeah,
This is recording on YouTube, which we're thankfully doing.
Turn it on, watch it.
Say again?
Turn it on, watch
I wouldn't hurt, I don't pledge allegiance again. Set the tone. Yeah, there you go. What do you think, Chairman?
I can't hear you.
Would it hurt to do the pledge of allegiance again and set the tone?
Okay, that'd be great. I'm gonna start the meeting again, so
Okay.
we're gonna do the pledge of allegiance one more time.
I got, you know why they asked Einstein why he had so many good ideas? It's because I have a lot of ideas. And only a few of them are good.
Okay. Where the hell's Tim?
Pardon?
Where the hell's Tim?
Out there.
Keep it simple. Yeah, it's for work. No. Or in my case, too many half finished.
Yes.
Or
All right, it's 10 o'clock. I'm gonna call the meeting to order. Would you all please stand and say the pledge of allegiance with us? I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, there's a lot of people here. I ask that we please be respectful of each other's opinions and do so in a nice, orderly fashion. And what I'd like to do is, there's a lot of people out in the hall, so I'm sure most of you want to speak, or a lot of you want to speak. If we could rotate in and out, there's a certain limit on this room of how many people we can have in it. And if you speak, then go out in the hall and let someone else come in because they want to speak also, okay? Okay, we've done the consent agenda before. What we have is a public hearing on the wind energy and cell tower and solar panels. I think, this is Matt Wyant, Director, Planning and Development, and/or Pam Calstrip, Coordinator, Zoning and Land Use. Public hearing for first consideration of ordinance number 2023-05, an ordinance to amend Chapter 8 zoning ordinance by adding wind energy and solar energy systems. Case number ZTA 2023-03. Matt, do you got anything you want to say?
Yes, thanks for having us here today. We are here presenting the Planning Commission recommendation on the new ordinance, updates for the wind ordinance and additional solar ordinance for Potawatomi County, Chapter 8 zoning ordinance, and to take public comment on that.
Thank you, Matt.
Make a motion to open the public hearing?
Second.
A motion and a second. Melvin, will you call roll?
Sure. Chairman Bell,
Aye.
Supervisor
I'm
Wickman,
not the chairman.
what'd they say?
I'm not the chairman,
You said-
unless you know something
He
I
was
don't.
last time.
Chairman Shea, I'll
Aye.
start over.
Aye.
Supervisors Wickman, Bell, Miller,
Aye.
and Jorgensen.
Aye.
Okay.
Okay, we got a public hearing, and I'm going to read this first. The public hearing will be conducted pursuant to the board's public hearing policy or procedure policy. I will call upon members of the audience wishing to be heard concerning this. At any time during the presentation of testimony, the members of the board may interrupt to ask questions or to make comments on what has been said. Once all of the audience wishing to be heard is spoken, I will entertain a motion from the board to close the public hearing on the request. The board reserves the right to ask questions of any member of the audience. However, we will not hear any unsolicited comments or statements unless a public hearing is first reopened or chairman allows. Each speaker addressing this board shall step forward to the podium and state their name and address before the proceedings with the testimony or evidence. The board shall not be bound by strict rules of evidence, but does reserve the right to exclude evidence or testimony that it may deem to be irrelevant, immaterial, incompetent, or unduly repetitious. As chairman, I will rule on all questions relating to the admissibility of evidence, which may be overruled by a majority of the board. Okay, what we're going to do is people in favor of this first. Who would like to speak first?
Can we get clarification, is it in favor of wind or is it in favor of the language that is proposed?
It's
If you're in favor,
correct. I mean, it's in favor of this,
if you're in favor.
of the ordinance. Of the ordinance.
Okay.
Do you want to get up and speak first? No?
No, don't shut the door, just tell them if they're part of the
It
meeting.
is
if they're
kind
part
of,
of the meeting, they should probably.
ask them to quiet down.
All right.
There's people can't hear.
Why don't we start, Brian, with those
Opening the session.
opposed to the ordinance?
It says, okay,
You can
I'm
do
good
what-
with that, Tim.
You can do whatever you wish.
Have we got people that are opposed? You raised your hand first, come on up. State your name and address.
Slowly. Are we're on for or against?
We're on against
Okay,
the ordinance.
all right, I'm ready.
Ready? Good morning, Matthew Spock of Nietzsche.
Right. Fill it in later.
2332 Charming Fair Drive, Woodridge, Illinois.
Okay.
All right. Hello all, I'm a development manager from RWE Clean Energy, and I work on wind, solar, and battery storage projects in the Midwest. And I'm here to oppose the recommended language for the wind ordinance update from the Planning and Zoning Commission. And I would like to propose RWE's language instead. And I wanted to see if I can have a few minutes to provide a background about RWE, an update on our project that's existing here in Potawatomi County. I believe it would be insightful for a lot of people in this room if I may have that time to give that update.
What I'm trying to do is limit it to about 5 minutes.
5 minutes.
So we can get lots of people to speak and say what they want to. So if you do that, I'd appreciate that.
Okay, thank you. Within 5 minutes, I just want to state that this project kicked off since 2018, has 94 leases in total covering 20,000 acres of land signed on to the project, and that is over 154 landowners to this day. Just some high-level benefits. This would bring in $62 million for the county over 30 years, along with $25 million to the landowners over 30 years as well. But I want to jump into, with the 5 minutes, the language that we are proposing. We're proposing either the Barrett Homes proposal of setbacks that was proposed to the Zoning and Permitting Committee, with a strikeout of the words CWES throughout that paragraph, and instead enter in WTG, which is the wind generating unit. But for our setback language, I just want to read it straight from here. The wind turbine generator in the wind farm shall not be located less than 1,650 feet to the closest exterior wall of a non-participating dwelling, as measured from the center of the WTG base. The WTG may be set back less than 1,600 feet from any participating dwelling or any dwelling of which the property owner signs a waiver agreeing to the reduce the setback distance. Provided, however, in no event shall a turbine be located less than 1 1/10 times the total height to any dwelling. In no event shall a wind turbine be located less than 800 feet to a non-participating lot line, provided, however, there shall be no side or rear yard setbacks for any lot line where a wind turbine is located on an abutting participating parcels. In no event shall a wind turbine be located less than 1 1/10 times the total height from the public right-of-way. With that, I just want to quickly break down, if the commission, or if the board were to approve the Planning and Zoning Commission setbacks as they are proposed today, the buildable area left on the 20,000 acres that are signed on to the project would result in only 9.3 acres of buildable area for a project, which is a project killer. The acres from the Barrett Homes proposed setbacks would result in 1,444 buildable acres. That would make this project viable. The proposal that RWE that I just stated, it's a compromise between the zoning, the Planning and Zoning Commission, also the Barrett Home. It will result in 914 buildable acres for a project. With that said, I just wanted to touch on a few items of within the proposed language. The first is the sound. It says that each applicant shall include a professional third-party pre-construction sound study in which all property within at least 1 mile of each wind turbine must be able to demonstrate compliance of noise standards in this section. I wanted to see if we can change that language so it can be adjusted, saying with non-participating landowner's consent at the request of a non-participating landowner, because we cannot go to all landowners within 1 mile of the turbine that did not sign on to the project, trespass onto their property to get those readings. So I wanted to make that clarification. The second one is the financial surge. Basically, we were looking to see if we can strike out the escrow account in cash in the form of financial insurance that the county is asking for. And instead, we would like to keep the certified deposit, performance bond, letter of credit, or corporate guarantee. And the reason is because no developer is gonna put up $300 million in an escrow or cash, while they're also trying to build a project with funds needed. We do need that money to build the project. And the last part is the decommissioning. Just wanted to state that in the proposed language, it's 6 feet. I want to see if the board can look at 5 feet, since that is below the frost line and should not impact the crops too much with that extra foot going from 6 to 5.
All right,
Done.
you're about 6 minutes now.
6, I'm
so-
sorry.
You're okay. That's-
May I, as lastly, just submit the language and exhibits, or the language and maps that I have as exhibits?
We can't do that during a public hearing.
Okay.
Okay,
Yep, when can I submit that?
next week, if you get on the agenda.
Okay. Got it.
Okay,
All right, thank you.
thank you.
Matt, you want those now?
Let him
You already have
submit
them?
it next week. Okay, who's up next? Against? Come on forward.
Morning.
Morning.
My name is Jerome Howard, and I am the Chief Flight Instructor for Rev Aviation at the Council Bus Airport.
Okay. Name and address, or your address?
Sure, 101 McCandless Road, McCandless Lane, I believe. Okay,
Where's that at?
it's on the Council Bus Airport.
Okay,
Yes,
all right,
yes, sir.
all right, good.
Council Bus,
All right.
my apologies.
I just didn't hear that part.
That's okay. Our concern with the wind farm is, where it's proposed to be built at is right smack dab in the middle of our practice area. We have, at this current time, 275 flight students from the University of Nebraska and from individuals that walk in off the street wanting to learn how to fly. This wind farm is gonna severely impact what we can and cannot do in that area. So at some point in time, I would like to come back and kind of show you maps of the proposed area and then where our practice areas are, so you can kind of get a sense of how this is going to affect us. As it stands, we've, the towers and the tower heights, the apex of the blade as they're making their swing through, would impede certain maneuvers that we have to accomplish with our students. And at this point, if this were built in that area, our students would have to travel further to an area where these obstacles aren't there, to where they can perform the maneuvers so they can move on to the next stage of their training.
Okay.
And this, it will definitely impact our bottom line, the students' bottom line, because it's going to increase their costs. They're having to fly further, rent the aircraft for longer, use more fuel and whatnot. So if you have any questions at this time, I'd gladly take that. I'd also like to get on the agenda for the next meeting to show you what we, the area that we're talking about here,
Okay.
and where this wind farm is proposed to be and how it's going to affect us.
That'd be fine. Has anybody got questions?
If you do want to get on the agenda, please do.
Yes, sir.
Jeanette, our administrative secretary, executive administrative secretary, can take care of that for you.
And when is the next meeting?
Next Tuesday at 10 a.m.,
Next Tuesday at 10.
right here.
Okay, that's all I have. I just kind of wanted to get that out there and be able to get on the schedule for the next meeting.
Do you have a card?
Yes, sir, I do.
Are you a flight instructor yourself?
Yes, sir, I am.
Okay.
I started flying almost 40 years ago. So, and I've been instructing for the last 16 years. So.
I'm a observer for the airport authority.
Oh, okay.
So we have a meeting here, I think tomorrow.
Right, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, that's all I have. Thank you.
Who's up Next, against this ordinance. Is anybody out in the hall against the ordinance? Or new ordinance, yes. Come on forward.
Against the changes in the ordinance.
I can't hear you.
Against the changes in the ordinance.
Against the changes in the ordinance.
Am I good?
Yep, state your name and address.
My name's William Doherty, work for Mid-American Energy. My address is 4299 Northwest Urbandale Drive. That's in Urbandale, Iowa.
Okay.
So, Mid-American's opposed to the proposed language in the ordinance as it stands today due to the current setback distances that are proposed for the resident setback of, I believe it's half a mile, and the property line setback of 1,500 feet. We're opposed to this because this is effectively a prohibition on wind energy further developing in Pottawatomie County. Since 2008, Mid-American Energy has had a wind farm that's been operating in Pottawatomie County. We've been making payments, lease payments to our landowners, and also property tax payments to the county to the tune of a couple $1 million a year. To the extent of our knowledge, this project has not posed any of the threats or safety claims that have been brought up at the planning and zoning meetings from the October meeting. There's claims along lines of safety, whether or not turbine operations within the state of Iowa or even specifically in Pottawatomie County are safe within a distance of a half mile. The turbines at the Walnut Wind Farm are well within that distance. They've been sited there, they've been operating for 15 years. To our knowledge and to the county's knowledge from the September meeting, we haven't heard of any complaints, any damage claims from the operations of that project. We don't believe that pushing setback distances out to half a mile or 1,500 feet property lines would be justifiable for that purpose. There are over 3,400 wind turbines within our fleet alone, over 5,000 across the state that are within this distance that have been operating with reliability and safety for dozens of years, hundreds of years cumulatively. So, in relation to a lot of the other things as well that were stated at the P&Z meeting, I'll just kind of touch on some of those quick. So, you'll hear all sorts of opinions on wind energy at the end of the day. There's a lot of people in this room, there's a lot of people throughout the state that have different opinions as well, but trying to take an objective view on the facts that are presented to us and the history of wind in the state of Iowa, I think will help provide a little bit of clarity and a little bit of guidance in your guys' decision. So there's been comments about wildlife impacts, whether or not, these projects kill significantly more wildlife. There's numerous studies that need to be done, whether it's on the FAA side of things to take into consideration the local airports, that concern that you just heard, or the Department of Defense for the Offutt Air Force Base. Those institutions, the FAA, the DoD, at the end of the day, those are permitting and regulating authorities for airspace safety that wind farms have to go through in order to get the proper permits approved in order to even put a project in place at the end of the day. We got to do it for a Walnut Wind Farm, we have to do it for all the wind farms across the state of Iowa. When it comes to wildlife, yes, birds, bats, some wildlife are impacted by this, but those are taken into consideration during multiple years of studies that are overseen by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service in the Iowa DNR, that at the end of the day also have to get regulatory scrutiny and approval from those institutions as well. There's been comments that have been made about the red FAA lights that are atop of the wind turbines. I believe that is appropriately addressed within the ordinance proposal that there is today. Mid-American just made operational our first ADLS project. What that is basically a radar system that monitors airspace traffic in and around and above a wind farm. It's a way to basically prove that airspace is clear. And when it is clear, we're able to basically mute or disable, we call them turn off, it's not really turned off, but the red FAA lights on top of wind turbines until something does enter that airspace, mitigating the nuisance to the communities around us, while also still holding paramount airspace safety. There's been comments that have been made about ice buildup and the potential for that to catapult into someone's house or kill livestock or anything like that. Once again, going back to the point of we have not had any claims at Mid-American over our 3,400 wind turbines that we have across the state of Iowa, of those actually impacting any of our participating landowners or adjacent landowners at the end of the day. And that spans over 20 years of operation. So I just want to kind of end with this. The projects that are proposed in Potawatomi County, Mid-American is also developing a project in kind of the southeastern portion of the county, abutting the Montgomery County area. All the projects that are proposed in Montgomery County today represent hundreds of millions of dollars of investment in the county. And over the life of the projects, they represent hundreds of millions of dollars in property taxes and hundreds of millions of dollars in landowner lease payments, if they are all to see to fruition. We encourage that the board looked at this, objectively. As I said, there's views on both sides of the issue. But at the end of the day, wind energy is safe, and we've proved that with 20 years of operation. It is reliable, and it is affordable. And at the end of the day, in the state of Iowa, this represents the lion's share of how wind energy is produced in the state and how we serve 100% of our customers' energy requirements in the year 2022. We would like to keep that going to drive economic development into the state, bring new businesses, and to help the state of Iowa's economy grow.
I got a question.
Yes.
When you recycle or power these with the new wind blades?
Yes.
You put the old ones in the dump?
We do not. So that
they went to David City, Nebraska.
So as of the old practice was when we would enter into agreement with the OEMs, the original equipment manufacturers, a lot of times in those contracts, they saw value in the blades. So as part of the contracts, they would take ownership of the old blades and we would get the new components. There was a problem though with how to repurpose, recycle, reuse these products because they're polymer structures. They're basically resin with fiberglass and a lot of different other materials as well. So you saw, in Ellsworth, Iowa, there was a turbine graveyard is what it was kind of deemed on social media. There was the Bloomberg article from 2021 referring to the Wyoming landfill site that had some pretty interesting pictures on there as well. So as of 2021, Mid-American saw that this was an issue. We've repowered over 1,200 turbines throughout our entire fleet to date. In 2021, we committed to 100% reuse or recycling of our blades, and we have 3 different vendors that we've been working with to get this done. We've been doing Carbon Rivers down in Tennessee, we've been doing Canvas in Ohio, and Veolia down in Missouri. So in these practices all have different applications for it. Canvas repurposes the blades for architectural landscaping, for benches, for tabletops, all that kind of stuff. Carbon Rivers has a process that they're able to actually extract out fiberglass from the old blades. They're able to repurpose that for a variety of different options, whether it be 3D printer filament, second generation use for boat hulls, sporting equipment, automotive parts, all that kind of stuff. And Veolia uses it as a carbon offset to help supplement their fuel sources at a cement kiln. And then they repurpose the fiberglass from that in order to create reinforced fiberglass, or reinforced concrete with fiberglass, excuse me. So yes, it was an issue in the past, but the industry is working toward, we recognize it was an issue, we're working toward a solution on that.
That helps me.
Yes.
What's the standard for electrical generation? Is it megawatt hour? Is that right? Is that correct?
So there's the nameplate generation, which is on a megawatt basis, but how we measure it from the IUB's perspective, so when we serve 100% of our customers' usage on an annual basis, that's in the megawatt hour or kilowatt hour, however you measure it.
I was at a presentation by one of your project engineers some years ago. He was stating that coal generation basically costs 5 cents per megawatt hour. Wind generation costs 17 cents per kilowatt hour. So there's a big disparity there, a gap. Financially not feasible as compared to coal energy. So where does that, how do you make up for that difference? And are you getting federally subsidized?
Yeah, you're getting production tax credits on these units.
Okay.
There's no doubt about that.
Are they going to go away at some point, and then these things become decommissioned because they're no longer economically feasible?
I mean, depending on the administration, there's certainly an option that they might sunset production tax credits. But I guess to answer your question, they were meant to sunset in 2021 before the Inflation Reduction Act was passed in 2022. We had 0 plans in place to either retire our coal units or retire any of our wind units because they weren't profitable. They are still profitable at the end of the day, and they also make up a large portion of our generation portfolio. If we didn't make money on a reliable basis with these generating units, we're not in the industry of providing overpriced power to people, or in the industry of parlaying or playing the game of what generation source is most favorable at any given point in time. Wind resource in Iowa is extremely abundant. That's why you see more wind in the state than you do solar, as opposed to California that has more solar resource. So it's supplementing that base load from the coal. We still have Walter Scott 3 and 4 online. We still have Neil 3 and 4 online. We still have Louisa online. It's an all-above approach. You got to take the coal, the natural gas, look at new technologies like nuclear, like hydrogen generation, battery storage, but you also have to have renewable resources in there to supplement that load growth as well.
I always look at windmills. I see, my sister and brother live in Carroll. You go west of Carroll on Highway 30, you see it's like the sun coming up at night, with lights up there. The visual nuisance is really something that bothers me.
Sure.
And I'm gonna say this, that's something that, there's not a hazard, but basically it's something that bothers a lot of people.
Yeah, and I understand that, and that's kind of to my point of saying, there's a lot of views on the issue, and that's one thing that we can't mitigate. If you view it, aesthetically, as it's not appealing to you, there's nothing we can do about that. And the same thing with our coal plants or any other facility that a substation. People don't like living next to substations, but at the end of the day, it's how we get our power reliably to our customers and at an affordable price.
And then at the end of the day, if these things become decommissioned at some point, and then the companies that put them up are gone, then it becomes county responsibility to decommission and recycle these things. That's what I do not want to happen.
No, that's understandable. That's a concern we hear throughout the state. I mean, especially from some of the rural counties that aren't as financially well off as Potawatomi County as well.
Right.
They have that same concern. Having decommissioning agreements in place, proper protections in place that don't inhibit development, but also protect the county and your constituents is something that you should look for at the end of the day. But we haven't decommissioned a project to date, and we don't have any plans to for several decades at this point in time. But I agree. I mean, that's a consideration you should be taking to protect your constituents.
Any other questions? Thanks for your time.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Who's up next? Yes, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Dick Miller, and as far as I know, I am not related to Susan. We don't know each other, okay.
Address.
My address is 31446 335th Avenue, Minden, Iowa. And I've enjoyed listening to the presentation so far. But I am not going to get technical, okay?
Okay.
I'm more of a common sense. I'm a farmer and a crop adjuster, and I farm 155 acres near Minden, south of Minden, and I've been there for 28 years. And I've been a landowner in Pot County since 1976. So not quite. Well, I guess you could call me, my origins are in Pot County more than anywhere else. We have signed an agreement with RWE for a possible future wind generator on our farm. I favor wind farms as an alternative to fossil fuel generating plants. Wind generators are environmentally friendly. Solar is not an option in Iowa, in my view, because it takes up too much valuable farm ground. You can see that in Arizona or in the desert where they got more sun and they don't have $18,000 farm ground. So I don't think solar will be an option here. We will need more power in the future, there's no doubt about it. So where's it going to come from? I don't see them, the public, allowing expansion of the Council Bluffs power station, because you bring in, it's coal, it's smoke, it's pollution. So I don't see that happen. And nobody really wants to talk about nuclear, although if you really want my opinion, the new nuclear modular thing is something the whole country should be looking at. So I'm a crop adjuster, and as I've been driving through rural areas of southwest Iowa the last 2-3 years, I've noticed all the signs around Trainer Carson opposing wind farms, and I asked people, and I really never got answer as to what's the big opposition. But now I found out through RWE that they say it's a safety issue, so they've made this planning and zoning ordinance to change the setback or make it 1,500 feet where it was more. Anyway, I'm also concerned with safety, that we all are, but setback rules should be based on facts and science. We have had wind generators in northern County since 2009. We have thousands of windmills in Iowa and this country. And I can't answer this question, but I bet our friend from Mid-America could. How many blades have fallen off, and how far from the base did they fall? This is, I understand, one of the reasons they're changing this, because for safety, the blades fall off. But that's why I say any decision should be based on facts rather than someone's emotional opinion of that. I may use an example of setbacks. During COVID-19, which we all remember, we were initially told to social distance 6 feet. Then a year later, the CDC changed it to 3 feet so schools could function. Then one more year later, it was removed totally. So these setbacks, as they set out from CDC originally, were not based on any science. They just said, hey, err on the side of caution, we want to be safe. But we know how that affected our society with the 6 feet. So let's not make the same mistakes that the CDC made and leave setbacks at 1,500 feet, allowing this project to go forward, promising more electric power that's clean and green. Thank you.
Thank you, Dick.
Yep.
Come forward.
Hello, my name is Harry Finch. My address is 70 West Burton Place, Chicago, Illinois. I'm the project developer for Invenergy's wind farm development here in Potawatomi County. We're just nearing the 2-year anniversary of the start of the project, and we're happy to say that we've got a lot of supportive landowners who decided to put their future of the farm and partially in our hands as we move forward. I want to say something to start. We agree that this ordinance is outdated. 1,000 feet is substantially below the internal standards that we use in siting our projects. And in many counties that we operate in, we end up extending beyond if you know those ordinances are outdated. However, the current proposal for property line setback and the resident setback unfortunately would net out to be an effective moratorium on wind development. I'll try not to repeat anything that's already been said and keep things moving. But property lines, the industry standard, both here in Iowa as well as across the upper Midwest and across the country, is 1.1 times tip height, or some function of the tip height of the turbine. I've seen as high as 115 or 120%. However, 1,500 feet is simply too expansive, especially considering when a standard 40-acre parcel here in the state.
What are your standards?
It's going to depend on the turbine that we'll use, but I can say at a project that we built just 2 years ago in northwestern Iowa, we had turbines that were just under 500 feet. We used an internal standard of about 1,500 feet.
Of what?
1,500 feet.
Okay.
So, just to give you an example. But like I said, 1.1 is the standard for property lines. On the residential side, this is where things get considerably more difficult as written at a half mile. And I'd like to illustrate the impact of the increase. So the current ordinance, 1,000 foot from residences, every residence has about a 70-acre area surrounding it where turbines can be sited. At a half mile, we're not talking 70 acres, it increases to more than 500 acres of ground that would be removed completely from possible siting. So, you know, I just want to underline that that's a substantial and unprecedented increase in overreach on the property rights of the hundreds of families across the county that have signed into a wind farm, whether ours or some of the other folks here. That increase restricts people from making the best decision for their families, their farm, and their future. And, you know, I just want to hit upon the point that I think the gentleman from MEC had made. There's 72,000 turbines operating in the United States, well over 5,000 here in the state of Iowa. Invenergy has been here since 2006, our first project in Iowa. We've developed more than a quarter of the operating wind here. You know, all these are based off of best practices and lessons learned. And these are responsible, proven, and safe standards. So I want to urge the board to find a reasonable, responsible middle ground. But certainly I do want to state very clearly, we oppose the 1,500 and half mile setbacks as written. I'm happy to answer any questions if you might have.
You use the 1,500 for your standards, but you oppose them in our ordinance, you
Sorry,
said?
that was from residences. The
Okay.
1,500 from property lines is just substantially larger than we tend to see.
Okay.
That tends to be, like I said, 1.1 times today, so, you know, in the range of
All
5
right.
to 7.
Questions? Well, I have a question.
Sure.
What's the reason for the projects being canceled out on the East Coast? I mean, I read the papers and I hear a lot of, there's wind generation projects that are being canceled because parts are getting to be expensive, parts are produced in China maybe, I don't know, there are just some issues with that. I think when one of the projects, the New York Utility Board was asked for an increase in the electricity rates that these things would generate, and they were denied. Okay, so help me out here. Do you know anything about those projects and why they were canceled?
Sure. You know, I've been working specifically on our Iowa team the last 3 years. I've been at Invenergy 4 and in the industry a few years beyond that. I don't specifically know personally why New York might be having some of these issues, so I wouldn't want to speculate. But, you know, the wind industry is like all others, and there have been a lot of supply chain and inflation issues over the last few years, which I'm sure everyone in this room has felt. But to any specific, I don't know that I'd be able to tell you right now. I'm happy to look into it.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate your time. Okay, who's up next? Okay.
My name's Dan Peterson. Excuse me. Address is 24897 310th Street, Neole, Iowa. I live in the Underwood, Neole area, and we have a multi-generational family farm. We are currently having our 5th generation on the farm. We want wind energy on our farm. It's clean, renewable energy. It generates $62 million in revenue for our county, our landowners, and our communities. We failed to pass school bonds, we have budget shortfalls, we have poverty, we have unemployment. Wind power is not experimental. Over 60% of Iowa's power is from wind, and Potawatomi County needs to have the revenue from this $62 million project.
Thanks, Dan. Okay, I saw another hand back there. Paula?
Hi, good morning. Paula Hazelwood, Advanced Southwest Iowa Corp. 149 West Broadway, Council Bluffs. So I'm actually here today to more so speak on this topic on behalf of economic development and potential impacts of the restrictions that have been presented in the ordinance. So I know all of you well. I'm here on a regular basis presenting our economic development projects, and obviously we cover the entire territory of Potawatomi County. And so probably I would venture to say at least 90% of the projects that we work today require some type of renewable component. So our larger manufacturers, our technology companies, when they are coming to us, they are asking for a renewable option. And so stifling and restricting those options could very well impact our future economic development. I think it was Mr. Miller that talked about this a minute ago. So 5 years ago, if we got a project that was requiring 5 megawatts of power, that was a big power project. I would think that the power companies in this room could agree with that. Today, we're getting projects that are requesting a minimum of 100 megawatts of power, up to 350, up to 450. That is tremendous power. The power does have to come from somewhere, and I would prefer personally that it comes from renewable sources, and definitely our projects that we work, the companies are very environmentally conscientious, and they want to make sure that they have those renewable options. I grew up in rural Potawatomi County. I understand the importance of the integrity and saving our beautiful rolling hills. I completely get that, the farmers, the landowners. But I do ask that you at least, as I know, many of you had economic development as, you ran on those platforms, the importance of economic development across Potawatomi County. This could very well, these restrictions could definitely stifle that as it relates to larger economic development projects for the county as a whole. So happy to answer any questions. I do want to say one other thing. I attended a really super cool event in Des Moines a couple of weeks ago, and they specifically talked about the decommissioning process of these, the blades. Iowa State right now is looking at a program where they actually break that down, recycle it, and use it as aggregate in building homes. So I think that's a possibility. It's not there today, technology, but they're working on that technology today. So just so you guys know that as well. Thank you for letting me say a few words.
Thank you, Paula.
Any questions? Awesome, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I saw another hand back there. Come forward if you're against this change to our ordinances.
My name is Dean Crone. I live in 1123 North Poplar Drive of Oak Isle. I've lived in Pot County my whole life. I farm here over 40 years with my wife Joy and my 3 sons are farming with me today. We actually farm around 8 turbines now in the Walnut project. We have a farm in south of Minden that will be in the RWE project if it's passed. I guess I just like to give you my personal feeling on some of the myths that you hear about these things. I had never heard of ice throw until a couple weeks ago. I'd go around 8 of them yearly. I've never seen a dead bird on any one of them turbines. They have got to be part of our landscape. We don't see them. We drive up to them. They're not even noticeable. From my house in Avoca, I can see almost 90% of them. I see the red lights. It's it's like anything else, that's built around you. Once it's there, it becomes part of your daily. I drive right by them every day when I go to the farm. I don't even notice them. I really think the new ordinance will probably kill wind energy in Pot County. It will be non-existent. And when you do that, it also, with the planning and development, there's going to be a lot of other projects that die in Pot County just because you're not progressive. And so I'd love to answer any questions about them. Like I said, I started with the project from day one. We had the first 2. We had the last 2 in that project built. The Mid-America learned a lot in the time they were there. They were up against a time frame. They had to have them spending by the end of the year to get their government money. But
Sure. I've got a question. You hear a lot about noise.
the noise is something else that you will get used to. It's not a loud noise. The main noise is the turbine passing the tower. It's a swoosh. Every time a turbine passes the tower, you will hear a swoosh. Some other noises that you may hear are the motors that move them, especially on a quiet summer day when there's very little wind. They're working their butts off. You can just hear them, the blades are turning, it's all moving, trying to find the air, the wind. So, once again, it's just another thing that you get used to.
What have you been told about the fire hazards of these generators? Because I think there is one out there by your neck of the woods that caught fire.
And not on ours, any of ours. It wasn't something that spread. It's just like any other fire, a building fire or whatever.
Do you know what the process is to put out that fire?
I don't think he'd know that.
I'm pretty sure our local firemen have been trained in that.
Yeah, we'd have to have them guys come in.
It's never been, I've never felt like it's posed a danger to any of me or my family. I have 7 grandkids. The last thing I would do would be to impose some kind of danger on my kids or my grandkids.
Well, I was told that one of the things that they do is put a fire retardant. around that generator, around that,
I have no idea.
and destroy crops. I mean, it could ruin your cropland for a while. I don't know. I just don't know, but
I can't
what
answer
people are
any
being
question.
told.
Yeah. Mid-America was more than generous in crop. Every question that I've asked, Bill, the RWE people, has been satisfied every one of my questions from every one of the concerns I had with the existing project, or I wouldn't have signed the other one up. I mean, it's not gonna be like it's a life-changing financial thing for our family to have a couple more wind turbines. It's all about electricity. We all take for granted. We all have phones. This morning I flipped my coffee maker on. What's gonna happen? Yeah, we have to have it, and we have to have more of it. And it needs to be at a price that we can afford. Without these wind turbines, that coal pile gets larger. I mean, to me, everybody says, well, I got a newsletter from REC the other day, because we live on the Platte County, Shelby County line. We have Mid-America, we have REC. And the fear is that our federal government shuts down coal and all these other things just because of the environment, and all of a sudden, we're gonna have the same issues that Texas had. We can't just have wind. We can't just have solar. We have to have them all. We have to have every aspect of electricity. I mean, they talk about turning my gas stove off and making me buy an electric stove. I mean, we can't add electricity to everything that we do without adding some kind of generation of electricity. It's just common sense.
Did yours just get retooled, your tower?
It's been a couple years ago, yeah.
Okay, so when that process happened, did they become greater producers of electricity or the same amount?
It is my understanding they did it to make it more efficient, yes.
And the blades were the same?
You would have to ask Mid-America about that, they may know.
Was that a longer blade you put on there?
Yep, usually when you repower, the blades are longer. That's mostly out of efficiencies in civil designing. Larger rotor span you have, more wind energy you can catch. So I'm not specifically aware of walnut. I would wager to bet a large amount though that the blade.
I'm assuming, I think that was actually the fact that they were a tad longer and more efficient.
And that process is a process that happens so many years?
Yeah, actually, I think they said 25 years, to be honest with you, and it happened in 10. Part of that agreement we have with them is their right to come on there and do that whenever they need to. They also are very good about paying crop damage. We have no fights with them when it comes down to them compensating us for the damage they've done, compaction damage. It's all figured in. They've been very generous.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dean. Okay, who's up next? Come forward, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is J.P. Conkright. My address is 726 North Ridge Road in Richmond, Kentucky. I come this morning to speak to you about safety concerns that have been brought up around the turbines, and I would like to speak in opposition to the ordinance that's been proposed, and I would like to fully support the setbacks that Matthew spoke of earlier. I want to give a little bit of my background so you understand my position and where I come from. I have a bachelor's degree in Fire and Safety Engineering from Eastern Kentucky University, where I also spent 8 years on faculty. I have a master's degree in Advanced Safety Engineering and Management from the University of Alabama at Birmingham, and I'm all but dissertation on a PhD in Interdisciplinary Engineering from the University of Alabama at Birmingham, focused on Advanced Safety Engineering. I'm a certified fire and explosion investigator and a certified vehicle fire investigator from the National Association of Fire Investigators. I'm a certified fire protection specialist from the National Association, from NFPA. And I'm also a graduate safety practitioner from the Board of Certified Safety Professionals. I've been in the wind industry practicing since 2009 as an engineer and operations manager in this space. I've been on multiple, both blade failures, turbine fires, tower collapses, everything that happens to these turbines. I've been there and I've been present. I'd like to say, not only have I ever seen anything get remotely close to getting outside the setbacks that Matthew spoke of, I rarely see it get outside of the footprint where the crops even come inside. So outside where you would go in and have a turnaround for that turbine. I've investigated, I would have to go back and check my records to know how many fires, both total losses, small fires that are contained within the tower, et cetera, et cetera. I've never had a fire get outside of the immediate turbine area during my investigations. So these setbacks as proposed really do meet, they should meet the concerns of the public and the concerns of the government trying to take care of the public. But also just anecdotally, I mean, in my experience in this industry, I've never seen anything get outside of those areas. So in essence, those should be safe. I do work for RWE. My position at RWE is Vice President of the Executive Committee of Environmental Health, Safety, and Security. And one of the departments that I manage is what we call EHS engineering. The job in that group is to find standards such as NFPA 850, ISO standards, EN standards. We don't have a lot of US-based standards for these wind turbines, so we do use a lot of European standards in making sure that we're safe. But we find those standards, and then as a part of our financial investment decision process, we make sure that the turbines and the farms that we're building, also the solar farms, battery storage, et cetera, adhere to the standards of safety that have been set, and we go above and beyond those standards. So when we look at, you know, the individual setbacks, are fires going to spread? Is ice going to throw? Are we going to throw a blade? We welcome those types of engineering questions, and we solve them with engineering answers. I know there's a lot of angst and a lot of discussion here around, you know, is this going to happen? Is that going to happen? Again, we welcome those types of questions, and we welcome answering those questions with real engineering data. That's part of my group and my responsibility at the company. So just to summarize, I do support the setbacks as Matthew stated, and would welcome any questions you would have before I say that.
Did you investigate the wind turbine that caught fire east of Atlantic?
Stewart.
No.
It's over by Stewart. Okay.
No, sir.
It was about a month ago.
Okay.
And one of the blades actually burned and fell off.
Burned and fell off. Did it fall within the footprint?
I believe it was, yeah. It was on the news.
In
And
general,
you would
it's-
see it going down the interstate.
It's hard to get outside of that footprint, and we've learned a lot through the industry. They talk about the newer turbines. You know, a lot of the videos you see, crazy stuff online, you can go find it. It's out there. It's a lot of the older turbines. It's not what we build now.
Okay.
In general, now what we find is if we're going to put up a new farm, any smoke detection will open the main breaker of the turbine, shut the turbine down, and we'll have to go out and do an investigation and do a manual reset on that turbine. Same thing with icing. If we get into an icing situation, we can pick that up now with vibration diagnostics and understand when there's icing on the blade. At some point, when there's icing on the blade, there's no real economic reason to run the turbine because the aerodynamics get so bad. So we'll shut that turbine down and let it sit until the weather changes, and we watch it because we don't like to approach directly under it when there's icing on the turbine as well, right? I mean, just for the safety of our employees, you don't want to get close to a turbine that's iced up. But from ice throw, you'd have to have a significant amount of rotor tip speed, which you do when they're operating. So we'll just shut them down and let them sit until conditions improve.
Okay. Questions? Thank you.
Good, thanks.
Really appreciate it. Was there one more hand back there opposed to the, sir, come forward?
He's first.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Morning, my name's Russ Brandis. My address is 37333 Mahogany Road, Hancock. I guess I would like to start out saying I'm a fourth generation farmer. Actually retiring this year and turning it over to two nephews. So they'll be fifth generation farmers, and they have several boys that could potentially be sixth generation farmers. So I'm in support of this project. I don't want to see it killed. And from what I have seen, the planning and zoning recommendations would kill it. Would kill all energy projects in the future. I'm going to jump around here on several other things, but I actually have a little solar set up that runs my hog finishing barns. I have 3 finishing barns, 3,300 head capacity, and my solar array provides all the electricity for that. Granted, it's not a big solar farm, but it is solar. like I said, I'm gonna jump around a little bit. I heard your comment on the Stewart fire, and I read a little bit. And a comment I read from the emergency management director of the county said was, it's a fire, it's not any different than a combine fire. Their fire departments didn't have the capacity to put it out because it's too tall. They just let them burn out, they stick around there. The biggest problem was the area around it. It had been harvested, so, there was no problems associated with it. What else did I want to say? I also have a county 911 tower on my farm. That was put in several years ago. I'll admit I tried to work the system. At the time, my mom owned the ground. So I set it up with the county that we would split the checks between myself and my two sisters. But my younger sister, I gave it to her son. My other sister, I gave it to her grandsons. So we started out with 3 checks being cut. Now there's 13 checks being cut. But that's all going into funds for these kids, basically into education funds. So, the last little type isn't gonna get a whole lot, but the first one is getting just as much money as what I am, so. And it's a good deal, and it's, we don't need it to, like Dean said, we don't need it to survive, but it's good income for the next generation. So maybe I'll just quit right there.
Thank you, Ross. Any questions? Anybody else opposed to this ordinance change?
He's on the outside, but he's trying to come in.
Come on in.
Thank you. It's a little busy out there, so.
Yeah.
Good morning. My name's Ron Kaminsky. Last name's Kaminski. My office address is 5626 Sorensen Parkway, Omaha, Nebraska. I am the president of the Nebraska and Southwest Iowa Building and Trades Council. We represent over 20,000 construction workers, contractors, and developers. And I am here today to state that we are opposed to these new proposed regulations for a lot of different reasons. Number one being, it's kind of like if you were at a pipeline hearing, or you're at a wind hearing, or you're at a solar hearing. The opposition that's paid to throw stuff against the wall sometimes is pretty sad, and it makes me wonder, as a country, what we're gonna do to move this country forward for the next generation without sending our kids to war to fight over energy. We construct tons of big projects. We're building Google project right down the street here. We construct major projects all over the Midwest. We've constructed tons of wind turbines for Mid-America Energy, good paying jobs with health insurance and retirement, not only for the workers, but for their families. Talking about economic development, these kind of conversations are going on all over the US right now. They're going on over in Nebraska tonight at a hearing. And it's a race. It really is a race to get these projects built up. You look at Google, you look at Facebook, you look at all these new server farms, and they want alternative energy. I am of the belief, we are of the belief that it needs to be a process of all different types of energy. One shouldn't be excluded over the other one, and we shouldn't make it impossible as government, in my mind, to stop or slow down progress. Like I said, I've attended pipeline hearings where I was in support of pipelines, and I've had crap thrown on me and against the wall till something stuck. But we just need to get to the facts here. I appreciate you guys taking the time to listen to folks from the community. and the workers in your community. And I hope you come up with something that's fair and down the middle, not too far right, not too far left. Because once we start getting that far out of bounds here, we don't make any progress at all, and that hurts us all. So thank you so much. And I'm here to answer any questions if you have them.
Anybody got any? Thank you, Ron.
Thank you guys so much. Have a great day, okay?
Thanks for your time. Yep. Okay. Anybody else against this ordinance change? Come forward, Julie.
Hi,
Hi.
so I'm Julie Drennan. I live at 1043 Como Place, St. Paul, Minnesota. So a lot of good stuff has been said today that I don't necessarily need to repeat. I want to talk a little bit about the origin of how we got here with the context of the ordinance, the proposed setbacks. I was in the 2 planning commission discussions on the setbacks. And what was initially proposed is something that it makes sense as an industry standard of 1,500 feet from the home, and then 1.1 times the height of the turbine from the property line. In the discussion where that changed to a half mile from the home and 1,500 feet from the property line, what I observed afterwards, and I think the planning commission did to the best of their ability made a judgment call on this. I did observe there was some not realizing that would ban wind. There was a discussion afterwards, and we knew from those setbacks you can't build if it's a half mile from the home and 1,500 foot from the property line. There were discussions afterwards where that wasn't clear when that was discussed, and I wish I could have clarified that in the planning commission. So we understand now that that's been proposed. We understand there's the original Baird home proposal. That's why Matthew spoke of our in the middle, which is 1,600 feet from the home and 800 feet, from the property line. What I'm asking and what I'm hoping that this board can do is consider a middle of the road compromise now that we've got these 2 extremes. The one I would consider pretty industry standard, not an extreme. And just to reiterate, as has been said, the benefits at stake here, we did have a third-party analysis of the tax revenue from our proposed wind farm. It is $62.6 million from that third party. I know Supervisor Miller had a question about House File 718. We're happy to have that consultant speak to that. We still know that the benefit, in talking with them, the benefits would still be at 54 million or higher, worst case scenario if 718 affects it. So that's still tens of millions of dollars over 30 years of the life of the project that's at stake if wind energy can't proceed in Potawatomi County. So that's pretty much all I want to say. I just want to clarify the context there. I really do hope that this board can consider a workable solution that responds to the concerns that we've heard, but also allows wind to be built.
Thank you. Any questions? Thank you, Julie. Okay, anybody else?
Anybody out in the hall want to speak?
Come forward, sir. Do you guys, the people that have spoke, do you want to maybe let these other people come in? Maybe go out in the hall and listen? There is a TV out there or something because it's noisy. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Well, good morning. My name is Lauren Luth. I live at 37622 Mahogany Road, 5.5 miles west of Hancock. This is my 51st crop on that farm. My great-grandfather bought the farm in 1887. I still farm with my son over in Shelby County and north of Walnut. So we have some familiarity with the footprint of a large generating system like they've got over at Walnut. And like most citizens, looked on it with some degree of skepticism, but still, let's see how it works out. It's been quite extraordinary from what I understand from everybody. Originally, there were some naysayers who dreamed something up that maybe wasn't quite right. I personally was concerned with whether or not the workmen over there during the years would keep the gates shut in the properties that they were leasing. Never have heard any complaint whatsoever. Now, we're all discussing how and where and what about possibility of a wind farm. It's really nothing new. Individually, my great-grandfather was pretty happy to put up his first windmill. If you've ever had a chance to get a hold of a pump and pump it full, a hand pump, and pump that full, a tank full of water, you'd see how appreciative they are of the windmills. I've still got 4 of those windmills. And I really don't think they're an eyesore to anybody. I like them myself. I've got a neighbor that isn't too happy with one of them that squeaks a little bit, but other than that, and it's about the money. That's generating a college fund for my grandchildren. I like that. And we need the progress in the country. We need to be able to do our fair share of contribution toward the power system across the country. Every gallon of gas, every kilowatt that we can make, especially here in Potawatomi County, is something we don't have to buy from some other country. So that's really all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Really appreciate it, Lauren. Okay, anybody else opposed to the changes? You guys, is there other people out in the hall that need to come in? Okay.
There's a hand in the back. There's a hand in the back.
Come forward, sir. That's it? Okay.
Morning.
Good morning.
My name is Terry McLean. My address is 530 Vine Street, Carson, Iowa. As opposed to the folks who have come and disagreed with your setbacks, etc., that come out of state, wanting to influence you so they can make more money. I'm a voter from Potawatomi County. My farm is got its 5th generation on it. Nobody here has said anything about quality of life. I'm opposed to your setbacks because I think you ought to double them. Make it further and further away. This is a quality of life issue. My son had a beautiful acreage up by Boone, Iowa. Had a great view. They sat out there as a family and watched the sunset. Just a fantastic family thing. After they'd lived there a couple years, all of a sudden that's all filled in with these ugly windmills. It's just a quality of life thing. Are you going to tax the future generations and take away the beauty of Potawatomi County? I've even my understanding, how'd you fellers that are all in favor of getting these closer to homes, how'd you like to have it closer to your home?
Please direct your comments to the board, please.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, it's even my understanding that the electricity that would be generated here would go not to Potawatomi County. So why would we denigrate our quality of life, the beauty of our landscape, for a place that benefit people in, I don't know, Chicago? I don't know where this stuff's going. I understand we need some different sources of energy, but not at the cost of our quality of life. Why would we make our county more ugly and less appealing? And I completely agree with your analysis with comparing the 11 cents a kilowatt versus 5 cents a kilowatt. My bill from REC and my bill from Mid-American Energy certainly haven't gone down. So please consider your vote of the people that voted you in, and not these people trying to make big bucks off of it. Consider your voters and consider your county. And I thank you very much for your attention. Have any questions?
Anybody? Thank you, Terry.
All right,
Appreciate your
thank
time.
you.
Okay, is that everybody against? I'd like to hear from people that are for this. Please step forward, ma'am.
Hello. My name is Jessica Gaines. I live at 33448 Beech Nut Road, Trainer, Iowa. And I just wanted to speak today regarding the concerns to the projects as well as future projects. I have lived my entire life in rural Potawatomi County. I've lived in Council Bluffs for 5 years, and upon meeting my husband, we decided to move back to Trainer in a rural area and raise our family. What I'm having a hard time understanding is why these projects are still an issue. The majority of rural landowners have made it clear that they are not interested in having a wind farm in this area. These are your farmers, people that grow crops for food and fuel, grow livestock for your consumption, and work tirelessly to provide for our country's growing needs. These are the people that you represent. The turbines, with their constant noise, infrasound, shadow flicker, constant need for maintenance, and overall land that they utilize are not something that we want peppering our beautiful countryside. They impact our fields, livestock, and overall way of life. We do not want these corporate tax break monstrosities in our county, and they will not benefit the people living here in any way, shape, or form. I could gather hundreds, thousands of signatures from rural landowners that are opposed to this in a week. Could you gather a couple hundred of people that are for it? I mean, I'm not talking about Council Bluffs. It's not in their backyard. It's in our backyard. I respectfully ask, as a consistent voter, to see an end to this and stand up for the people that you were voted to represent. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. Who's up next?
Brian, she wants to know, could you sit on,
I'm just gonna go in this corner right
In
here
the corner?
for a second. Another angle. Thank you.
Okay.
Oh, how's my hair look?
There isn't any back there, so don't worry. Okay. Next up, for who's in favor, come forward, sir. And she can be next. Come around front here. Just come around front.
You can get around here.
James Snorer, 10750 290th Street, Silver City, Iowa. And I guess I've never wished as much as I have today that I would have went to college and learned public speaking, because I'm not paid to do this, and you know that.
Yeah.
So, anyway, moving on, I got three little points, I guess. It's been brought up, I guess, it's kind of well known that the majority of people, reiterating what the girl before said, that people in general are not in favor of commercial electric generators put up on our farms. And we've presented you with over 1,000 signatures that weren't certified. They were picked up from people we know, and they weren't certified or notarized. But I guess even if you consider that a small percentage weren't maybe on the list, it's still a big list. And the 1 mile square where I live, if you count up the people around it and in it, there's at least 55 people live there. And I think a lot of people think we're out in the country. You know, you're out in the country, you're south of Trainer 3 miles, but that's pretty heavily populated.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't want to listen to that and see it and get it pushed in upon us. And I don't personally want to get used to the noise of it. I mean, I guess I've heard today that you get used to it and you don't. I don't want to get used to that. I don't think that's something I should have to get used to, is the noise of these things. And, one last point is, I think all property lines should be protected from noise and the danger from malfunctions in these things. And I think anybody will admit there sooner or later there could be a malfunction of some sort, whatever it may be. And I think the property line is just as important as setback from the house. Because, I don't know, do you know where I want to build a house on my farm? You don't know that now. You're zoning my property by having 1.1, that's a ridiculous setback for a wind tower from a property line. And I think I spoke about it last time and I'm gonna bring it up again today, but that's what you had in Walnut. So if it falls over, it doesn't go over the property line. But we'll put new blades on it, make it taller, and then we'll have the variance board okey dokey it, so now it will fall over the property line because it's made taller. And why? No good answers to that. Set them back a ways. And saying that they're not, it takes away too much property, I don't care. I mean, who are you working for? Like the girl before said, who are you working for? Thank you. Any
Thank you,
questions?
James. Appreciate it. Good. Okay, next up, this young lady back here wanted to speak. Yes.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Rosalie Soloth, 30136 Hickory Road, McClellan, Iowa. Been a resident of Pottawatomie County all my life. And I did send emails to all of you a few weeks ago. I'm sure you probably saw them. And I expressed my concerns at that time with the current wind ordinances in our county. Now, the new one is better, but I would like to see it more of a setback than the 1,500 feet or whatever's been proposed. I did a little research online, it's not too hard to find. Madison County went 1.5 miles from a residence. Now, that might be a little too far on the other end, but I think 1,500 is still not enough to be near someone's home. And they adopted all these new ordinances. This is Madison County in 2020. And I just have to say, I know Pottawatomie County hired a land expert to review our ordinances, I presume, back during this past few months.
It was a law firm.
A law firm, okay, but he was to be somewhat of an expert, so I understand. But I also read that he was a lobbyist for the Nebraska wind and solar farms. So I wonder if he could really be impartial to the landowners and the homeowners that are opposed to the wind turbines. I don't know. I just question that. Anyway, I had a few thoughts and questions. Some of them have been talked about. We've heard all good things why we should want them. But there wasn't a lot of talk about the property rights of the people that have to live here. We live here, we love to live here. That's why we're here. Yeah, just to make it simple, I guess I would say, well, I've got a few questions here about the maximum height and, you know, the limit on the number of turbines in a project. Is there a limit? About the noise level, someone said you get used to it. I don't think we should have to get used to it. I'm not sure you would get used to that swish, swish, swish in your backyard 24 hours a day. I don't understand that. And of course, the shadow flicker, we talked about that. That shouldn't ever happen in someone's home. But I have questions about our local, like due to the increased traffic and of heavy equipment and what have you on our roads and our bridges. There's gonna be more maintenance. Is that gonna be part of the talk here, or is that just fall on the taxpayers to fund that part of it? We've talked about the fires that can happen, and we've all saw the pictures of the one. In fact, we witnessed that one because we were coming home from Ames that day when it was up by Stewart and that area. So if there is an emergency, a fire, an injury, a tower dysfunction, whatever, is that up to our local community volunteers, fire people and EMTs? Is this on their shoulders to handle? I don't know. And I have one more question about the turbines. My question is, we've heard they're very green, but we've heard that they're going to recycle. Well, we've heard that. Has it actually happened, or is it just a talk? You know, I want to know, is it really going to be green, or are we going to get into it and find out those blades are still going to a graveyard somewhere? We don't want those all over our county, I don't think. And I just have to say, none of this seems really green to me in a way, because it takes a lot of, to build a turbine, it takes a lot of materials, the steel, the concrete, the fiberglass, the copper, everything that goes into them. And then you still use a lot of fossil fuel to get that done. So the wind turbine has also an end of life. Well, they talked about that. They're going to recycle. So I'd like to see that happen. And I have to say, sometimes I wonder, is this really green, or is it just the green about the tax credits, the tax money, and the income from the land being used? I suppose we could talk about that all day long and not come to a real conclusion, because we all have our opinions. But I will just say, we have a beautiful county. Loved it here. It's prosperous, it's growing. Many of the communities are doing great things in their communities. I'd like to see that continue. And I'll just say, I have not heard of anyone that wants to live by a turbine or would like to go build their new home by a turbine. I've not heard that. Someone said you get used to the swishing sounds, the blinking lights, and I just think that would be, on a daily basis, it's pretty to look at for just a moment. But day in, day out, I can't see our county being covered with a lot of turbines with that, because eventually there's going to be the end of life of that turbine, and it has to be taken down and recycled and what have you. And then there is still, as I understand, concrete left buried under the farm ground. Is that what we want to do? I guess just to finish up my moment, I'll just say, I'm just asking the Board of Supervisors to just please review, add, and update all of our ordinances that pertain to the wind turbines, and to protect the property rights of all the landowners and the homeowners in our county, in Potawatomi County. Just please don't give the county away. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosalie.
Question?
No, thank you. This gentleman right back here. Michael, come forward.
You want him or you want me?
You, Michael.
You didn't call me young man, Brian. So.
You're younger than me.
I will, I'm Mike Holton, City Administrator and Trainer. I'm going to keep it very short. I have to be very careful on some things because I agree with the Paula Hazelwoods of the world. I'm about community and economic development, but I'm also a realist. I worked for 7 years as a director for the Center for Rural Affairs many years ago, and I was an advocate. and I still am for solar and wind. But I'm also with a background in planning and zoning, and understand that I think that the requirements and the things that have been developed are not too restrictive. I think they are appropriate, and I see value. And in fact, I think when the gentleman from Carson said something about even go further, you have that ability, you have that right, you have due diligence in front of you to do the right thing as County Board of Supervisors.
Oh, yeah.
One thing that I would ask, and the real reason that I'm here, is that as you proceed forward in looking at especially the wind, that you also look at the small rural communities and their area that they consider sacred. And I'm gonna talk about the 2-mile extraterritorial jurisdiction. And I think that it's important because we know that Potawatomi County is growing. I live in Trainer. I came to Southwest Iowa. I think this is a beautiful area. I think very highly of everything from there. I'm from Northeast Nebraska. And when I saw the Les Hills region and the rolling hills and the terrace farming, you said something about aesthetics. Don't keep that short. I mean, that's very important. Aesthetics is very important, and I think that you need to keep that in mind when looking at all wind energy. I think Mid-America does a great job, so I have to be careful. I think it's a great company, and I love all the things that they are doing. But there's a place for everything. So all I'm asking, and I'll keep it short because you've got a lot of very passionate people out here doing the right things, is that when you consider any of the ordinances, that you include that buffer and really respect that 2-mile ETJ development area for the communities as they grow, because as Trainer went from 919 13 years ago, they were 919. I checked our little census with our water and utility bills. We're at 1,100 people right now. The fastest growing community in Pot County, that 2-mile can get swallowed up in the next 10 years easily. And I'd hate to see anything like wind turbines sit there and erected on an area that violate not only property rights and the individual owners who don't want it, but also the city, who has to look out to what they want to do to develop around their community. So I'll leave it there. I appreciate everything you do. You know that. I love you guys. So do the right thing, and I know you will.
Thank you, Michael.
Michael, just for instance, we are looking at adding a provision in there somehow, 2 to 3 miles from outside the corporate limits of a city and that kind of stuff. It's just a suggestion that's been brought up, and that is going to be considered. So.
Good, and I appreciate that. I know that and there are some people from Trainer, James, I thought you spoke very well. I know at times we don't always have equivalent things, but that's well spoken. And when you talk about the folks around, say like we're in Trainer, and you sit there in that there was a concerted effort to bring in wind turbines. Some of them were tickling, not even, almost on the outside edge of 1 mile. And I'm going, no, because we already see that can be very difficult, and I'm already looking at 2 subdivisions. Yeah.
It's my understanding that one of the wind farm producers had an office in Trainer, trying to get
Right
property
across
owners to sign up.
Yeah, right across from our city office at the time.
Okay, and they didn't succeed. I understand some of them did, but they were absentee landowners that basically signed up.
Correct.
I talked to one of the farmers that took a look at it. He said once he saw the contract itself, that's what he objected, because when these things get decommissioned, who does that cost fall onto? And he said I didn't approve the way that was going about in the contract itself, so he declined. But that office is closed, right?
They're moved out and they've closed. There was a lot of opposition. And just to reiterate, I'm coming here not as Mike Holton as individual. I have my own viewpoints in that, but I am representing. The council's very clear how the city wants to proceed forward. And I have a young gentleman that's on our council from Mid-American, so I highly respect everything that they've done with the city, but understanding that the people around at least our area, and I think a lot of the small communities are going to be the same way. They do not want it. This is a very highly sought after place to live. The Les Hills area is sacred ground, and you want to be restricted in planning and zoning, you can be as restrictive as you choose and you wish. to do the right thing. So I'll get out of here. I know
Thank you,
got a lot
Michael.
of them.
Appreciate it. Who's up next? Come forward, sir. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, some of you people know me, right, Melvin?
Yeah, I know you. I've known you a long time, Rodney. I just don't know your address.
Speak your name and address, please.
My name is Rodney Wall. My address is 14737 350th Street, Carson. And I have a couple of concerns about the setbacks. One of them, I hire people to spray my crops, and I'm not sure that the setback would be enough for helicopters or planes to maneuver along my fence lines. And so I would think a setback a lot further than just 1.1 times the height of the windmill. I don't think it would be enough. These guys fly around. And there's also farmers, now I don't do this, but there are farmers who hire crop seeders to seed cover crops in the fall and other things, and they've got to be able to get around too. And windmills could get in the way because they have to take into account the wind direction when they're seeding these crops, as well as the sprayers. And one more thing, on property setback, property line setback would be cattle. And I've got cattle. I've had cattle for a long time. And cattle don't necessarily like the windmill. They will go to the other side of the pasture and stay there when this windmill is going. And that doesn't give me much space for pasture. Anybody have any questions?
First of all, from one veteran to another, thank you for your service.
Thank you.
And you brought up some interesting points that I never even thought about, spraying crops and livestock on the property. So I appreciate that.
Thank you, Rodney.
Anybody else?
Sir.
Jeff Buckingham.
I got that part.
Okay, 41814 Boston Avenue. I'm gonna talk loud because I can't hear anything back there, so I'll make sure.
Good.
Just to qualify before I start, I'm 100% against them, but I understand we have to compromise. Somebody stated that you get used to looking at them, you get used to listening to them. I don't want to do that. You know, to me, it's a quality of life issue also. My great-great-grandfather came to Wheeler Grove in 1865. So everybody's given their pedigree. I've got the 6th generation on the farm. And I can stand on my property and I'm 20 miles away and I can see the Walnut Farm. I can see the Messina Farm, and that's 40 miles away. And I don't want to look out my back door and see this monstrosity sitting there. To me, everybody talks about, you know, nobody talks about the electricity that it's going to produce will not offset the carbon footprint of what it takes to produce this, what it's going to do to our roads, what it's going to do to our infrastructure as they build these. For what? For a few dollars. You know, to me, I already live by a bridge that will never be replaced. And I just, to me, it's quality of life. So, I mean, that's all I really got. So,
thank you, Jeff.
Like I say, I understand we got to compromise, but so that's fine.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yes, ma'am.
I was gonna have to stand up there.
My name is Kim Schnorr. I live at 10750 290th, Silver City. I'm going to have to read this because I'm not a public speaker. I have been in Pottawatomie County resident all my life. I have lived in my present home for 48 years, just 3 miles from where I grew up. My family farm is 154 years old. As a farming family, we have made improvements on the land and have been good stewards. When the railroad came in and took acres, they said, "You'll get this back if we can use it now." That didn't happen. There's a bike trail going through there now. Then the gas company came through and put in 3 lines. Then the power company came through and put up poles. We almost had the CO2 pipeline going through, but hopefully Bungie has saved us for the time being. Now there are wind farms. When will it end? Please consider your residents who have been here for the long haul. We need bigger setbacks for our peace of mind, our livelihood, and our protection. Thank you. Any questions?
No, thank you, Kim.
Thank you.
Sir.
My name's Craig Swenson. I live at 14116 390th Street, Carson. I guess I have a couple concerns. First off, I'm not for the wind farms. And I'm not for the latest proposal. I think it is ridiculous to have 1,500 feet from a property line because of the aesthetics. And I'm sorry, it is because of the aesthetics. I moved out to Carson. I bought this small piece of property. It's 4.5 acres is it, so I know I'm not a farmer. I'm not getting any money off of this project. And I moved out there 22 years ago. I lived in Omaha for 30 years. For 30 years, I lived in a subdivision with noise, neighbors, 15 feet between homes, etc. I moved to my property for the reason of the Los Hills and the beauty of the Los Hills. I have a view to the east for probably 5 miles. Beautiful, watching the sun come up in the mornings. In the evenings, same thing, to the west. I have 2 miles to the west where I have nothing behind me. I easily I'm retired, but when I was working, I worked for 35 years for a Fortune 500 company in Omaha as a manager. And it was a place that I could driving into town, I could get ready for work. I wasn't fighting the traffic. Going home, I didn't fight the traffic, not much traffic on 92. And it was in the evening, and it was just a way that I see people that live out in the country, they like that lifestyle. They don't care about where people come from or have gone to college and what their jobs are and how much money they can make as a company. They want to live in that area. They don't want wind farms. It's obvious because of the petitions that have gone around. There's, probably at least 1,000 people, if not more than that, that have signed this petition for the reason that I just stated. They don't want these things in their backyard. Me in particular, my pet peeve is I live on a property line of 80 acres that is an absentee landowner. If that absentee landowner signs an agreement, I don't even know it. I don't know where they're going to put these things right next to me. My house sits on the north side of or the south side of the absentee landowner, it is probably no more than 50 feet to that property line. So you start setting up your property line distances, so that takes away, basically, you know, from my house, 50 feet from that property line. I'm not gonna have anything. I'm gonna have a tower right there. And I challenge you to figure out what 12 or 1,500 feet is. Watch your odometer on your car and see how far that is you go. It's nothing. I've done it up in Walnut. It's nothing. And you know, I don't care to hear the swooshing noise, and I get used to it. You've heard that from many people. I don't care to see the red lights. I don't care to hear how they're technically gonna get rid of the lights. I don't care about all that crap. What I care about is the Los Hills, for one thing. There's only 2 areas in the whole world that have the Los Hills. And I don't want this strip of land that is beautiful. You drive that, I ride a motorcycle. Take that ride up to Sioux City. Take that ride down through Hamburg, Iowa. It's beautiful. You go down, one of my daughters lives outside of Hamburg. You know, they've got all them stinking wind turbines out there. It's ruined that area. You go up to Walnut. How can those people want to live up there in Walnut with all of those wind turbines around them? Why that? Don't make the mistake that happened up in Walnut, is what I want to say to this board. And the only other thing I'd like to say to this board is, I wish this board had microphones. Because sitting back there, today we have people that are out in the aisleway. They're talking, they're listening to their phones. We can't hear, and I'm sitting right there. I can't hear a stinking thing that's going on because I'm a little hard of hearing. You know, you might be able to hear it. I hope you can hear me.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's not.
Closing that door helped, didn't it?
Well,
We should have done that
it did
together.
now, but the people that were all against or for whatever it is, against the proposal, couldn't hear a word, couldn't hardly hear nothing back there. And it wasn't just me, we were all straining to hear. We didn't know what we were even listening to because you couldn't hear what was getting proposed. Some people don't project their voice to the point that you can hear it. So that was just a criticism, sorry.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Craig. Okay, who's next? Yes, ma'am, in the pink. Who's next?
My name is Terry Borthman. I live at 50459 370th Street at Henderson. Actually, I live in Mills County, but I am a landowner in Pot County. And I'm just here to say that, just to voice my concerns regarding these wind turbines. As much as I am against them, I understand that everybody has a right to do with their land what they've seen fit. They've all worked for it, they've paid for it. But my concern is with the effect that these will have on the neighbors of these wind turbines. There has to be some type of accountability for the quality of life. There are ordinances within city limits for quality of life. I know in town, if your neighbor has a barking dog that's an annoyance, they can be fined, they can be cited, and held accountable for that disturbance. If they choose not to remedy that, animal control steps in and could possibly remove the dog. These huge wind turbines are rural areas barking dogs. We don't have a choice to get rid of these once they're there. Non-participating landowners need to be heard. They need to be assured that their quality of life is not affected by the turbines. Let the rural people of Pot County know that their quality of life is just as important as the people in the city. You are the voice of the people. Please hear us. I looked up quality of life in the dictionary and it said the standard of health, comfort, happiness experienced by an individual or group. Listening to those turbines whine and the hum and the flashing lights don't sound like comfort and happiness to me. Consider bigger setbacks to ensure the quality of life for all residents of Pot County. And one other thing I'd like to say is when these wind turbines, the thought of these first came into the area, I think the way the lady told me that we were one of the first landowners that they came to and asked about these wind turbines. And I had been talking to different people about them, and we had already made up our mind that our land was not going to go to wind turbines. You know, everybody else can do what they want, but ours was not going to. I made that very clear to the lady that day when she was there. This is a lady from Mid-America. And within 4 hours, I got a phone call from a relative that said this lady had come to her house and the lady had told her that we were all for it. We had signed, we were ready to go. And I made it very clear to her that we, under no circumstances, had done that. I proceeded to get a hold of the lady that had come to my house, and she said, oh, we just must have had some kind of a misunderstanding. I said, no means no. There's no misunderstanding there. Come to find out that that has been the practice several times through this whole ordeal. And another thing, I just feel like, you know, I'm not saying anything against Mid-American or anything, but I think there's a lot of misrepresentation putting forth with these wind turbines. And I think that's a lot of why a lot of the people are skeptical. They don't want to, you know, the dishonesty and stuff. And I know I've just talked to another person that said the same thing's happening to them, that they are being, other people are calling them and saying, oh, I hear you're for the wind, you know, turbines, and they're saying absolutely not. But they're using people against each other to try to get them. So I just hope you guys, we don't have to deal with the barking dog in the country. So thank you.
Thank you, Terry. You're up next.
Chris Purdue. My address is 12978 470th Street, Griswold. But I live in Potawatomi County, have a Griswold address. So I was sitting there listening to everything and noticed these pictures here, how pretty they are. I'm assuming they're Potawatomi County.
Yes, they are.
Just imagine though, this could be anybody's window in their house, but imagine now, wind turbine, wind turbine, wind turbine, wind turbine over there also. It goes from a pretty picture to something ugly. And I wouldn't want to live next to something like that. I would live next to something like that, but not with the wind turbines. My family's been farming our farm since 1886, generation after generation, and that's what we do. The soil is irreplaceable. You can't make topsoil again. It's in Iowa, and that's what we're here for. I keep hearing things about economic development, and the economic development in our county is called agriculture. That's what we do here. There's 93,000 people, I think, around that in the county, and it's interesting how you can have 1,000 houses and maybe set them back 2 or 3 miles, but you have one house and you can be within so many feet. A half mile is not far enough. And from the discussion today, I also took notes, subsidies and the money. And it sounds like to me that this is what it's about. It's about money. It's not about saving the planet, it's just about money. And 72,000 wind turbines in the country already. I mean, enough is enough. I mean, I don't see how they are contributing. Like someone said, the energy prices haven't come down. And I don't appreciate people who bash on the power companies because the coal plants that we have are clean. They've done a very good job of keeping the environment clean. We don't live in China, where they don't care about the environment. So the power plants take up a much smaller footprint, a few acres, where the wind turbines, I think, would have to take the whole country for them to be even make a dent in what we need for electricity. The other thing that was mentioned was the quality of life, and I was going to say that too, because that's why we live here. You can go outside on our farm at any given time, silence. And don't let them tell you that the blades are quiet, because they're not. They're very, very noisy, especially if you get 1, 2, 3, 100 of them in a row. They make lots of noise. The spinning has effects on humans, and they haven't mentioned that about human health today. But the spinning has effects on humans and their health. In animals, the motion every day, day in and day out, it will affect people. So there gave a couple positives to the wind turbines, but there's lots of negatives. With the noise, the flicker, how they could affect livestock. No one's mentioned the soil erosion after they're being built, because case after case in our county, the terraces aren't put back right, there's soil loss, the driveways up and down the hills, they're not on the contour, they're not put in right. There is soil loss and soil compaction. Those cranes weigh hundreds of thousands of pounds. And you drive them across the farm, I don't think that the soil would ever come back from that. The roads, the bridges, and then the blades when they're done with them. I don't know if there's studies on groundwater, but you're putting concrete in the ground very deep. There needs to be studies on that, and even the weather. You're turning up the atmosphere with the blades. I've talked to farmers across the state for the last few years on experiences with these, and they have witnessed where a thunderstorm will come up on a large wind farm and then it dissipates. I don't know, it's not studied, it's not been proven, but that's just their personal experiences. If it affects the weather, that study needs to be done. The amount of fuel that it takes to drive around the wind turbines as you break up a field, you're burning more fuel. Put more of that into the equation, it's going to cost more to farm. And then you're giving up your land rights when there people come into your farm to work on them and stuff. And then someone mentioned the airplane sprayers. Lots of sprayer companies have said that they're not going to work in those areas. So another reason to have less options to spray your fields. Other people have mentioned not in my backyard. No, I don't want them in my backyard. I'll admit that. But there's other people who are signing up for these. They're not putting them in their backyard either because they don't live here. They're putting them in my backyard, and I don't want them in my backyard. But they will take the check and put them in my backyard even though they're not in theirs. In California, they're putting up solar panels, and they're taking away from the food that we eat, and this also takes away from our crops and feeding the world. I could go on, but I think I've stated my point, and I appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Chris.
Bill.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
My name is Larry Plagman. I live at Carson, Iowa, 309 North Mildred Street. I'd like to speak against the setbacks being used on property lines. I'm in favor of that. I don't want to see an adjoining property line use be diminished or eliminated. And also, when we talk about water rights, like water in a river, when that water leaves your property, it has to have the same force as when it entered it. Like you could put up a water wheel and harvest that energy, or turn a grinding wheel to make flour out of grain. Well, the wind is similar. Windmills need to be far enough back from the property line so as not to take the neighbor's wind power. And then I'd like to also talk about the roads and the erosion. The farm program for the farmer is voluntary, and so is being in compliance with the NRCS. if you are not in compliance with the NRCS, you are not eligible to be in the farming program. So through your permitting process, you could do something similar. If they don't adhere to the NRCS standards for the road design and erosion control, then you just simply don't issue the permit. Because that's what the federal government does to us. With that, that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Larry. Was there another one? This young lady over here? Oh, I thought he was going up too. He was making a dash.
Ann Borthman, we live in Council Bluffs now, 324 Buena Vista Circle, Council Bluffs. We have farm ground south of Trainer. We have farm ground northeast of Trainer, 31112 Highway 6. Mine's going to be short and sweet, and maybe you've already done it, but as a board, I challenge you to go sit by Adair, by Casey, Stewart area, 24 hours, sit in your car with your windows down and listen. I think you'll have a different perspective. We have a lot of friends and family that have them on their property or close to their property, and it is very noticeable. It is very annoying. I just challenge you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ann. Anybody else? Yes, sir. Come forward.
I'm loud anyway, so nobody will have a problem here. My name's Brian Easton, 35995 Pioneer Trail, Macedonia. I don't like them. I don't want them. I don't want to see them. I don't want them near me. I can repeat everything everybody before me said, but why? I agree with everything except for the comment on Mid-America being a great company. Mid-America is a huge conglomerate with a huge footprint, with too much power, and will stomp on you in a heartbeat, and I don't like them. We can go back to the nickel to 17 cents. It doesn't work. If it wasn't for the taxpayers subsidizing this, it wouldn't work. Green energy doesn't work. We all want to embrace it, but at the end of the day, it doesn't work. Does China put them up? No. They're building coal-fired power plants, nuclear plants. They're laughing at us while they send us their components to put this crap up. That doesn't work unless the taxpayers subsidize it. Yeah, we all feel good at the end of the day, but it doesn't work. Anyway, that's about all I got to say. I don't think you guys went far enough. What you need to do is to call yourselves a homeowner association, and you'd have enough power to just tear down the ones you already put up. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. There was someone else. Yes,
I don't talk in front of people either, but.
that's okay. Just talk
Scott
to us.
Casson, 18426 Empire Lane.
What was your first name?
Scott. With all these people, don't want them, don't care for them. I honestly can't believe the amount of farmers that really want them, that on the ground for that many years. A lot of things have been said, but nothing about agriculture, and that's what Potawatomi County is in Iowa. Agriculture has you're almost more restricted than what these industrial people are. If I want to put up 1,000 head, any kind of livestock facility, I have to be 1,875 feet back from the house. And if you want to check with that, call Coalition of Iowa Farmers. That's what we dealt with when we put up our cattle building, and they're great with all the rules and everything. And I just thought that needed to be said. I think farmers are more restricted than what these industrial people are. I just don't see why something so large shouldn't have more restrictions. That's all I need.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Scott. Who's next? Yes, sir. Step forward.
Greg Soloth, 22732 310th Street, McClelland, Iowa. I just got a couple points. The first one is just about wind energy. I've done some research on it. Even the government numbers on production, anywhere from 3 to 10% of current energy is from wind. But to my knowledge, subsidy-wise, it receives about 40 to 50% of government subsidies for energy production. Which to me, if you take away the subsidy, as many people said, it would not be here. It just would not exist. And my other point was just about the Baird home as being, drawing up our ordinances. I think we need to look for somebody else to draw up the ordinances. Somebody with less conflict of interest. That's all I have.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it, Rick. Okay, I saw something right there, young.
Jonathan Miller, 1226 Wedgewood Drive, Council Bluffs. My family farms south of Trainer, north of Silver City. I'm the 6th and 7th generation. I think Schnorrs have got us beat by about 5 years on, on living here and farming here the longest. I guess one question I'd have, and I don't expect an answer now, but from all the wind farm representatives, I mean, why here? You're talking about renewable energy, renewable resources. That's under our feet already, topsoil. Why would you put roads over it? Why would you fence it? Look at western Nebraska. I mean, no offense to Nebraska, maybe a little bit, but there's nothing over there. Build 1,000 of them, 10,000 of them, 50,000 of them in western Nebraska. No one lives there. There's hardly any wildlife. There's no crops that can be grown there. Why would you not put them there? I've never heard anyone ask that. Seems like a good question to me. I know the Council Bluffs Airport representative was here saying how these wind farms were going to restrict their flight patterns and training. If it affects them, and I would assume I'm not a pilot, and they're doing, you know, their maneuvers 1,000 or 2,000 or 10,000 feet in the air, crop dusters can't do that. They've got to be feet off the ground, yards at most. How are they going to do that around wind turbines? I just don't see how that's possible. I could repeat a lot of what individuals here have said already. Offsets from our property again. I mean, yeah, you can't plan. You don't know where a house is going to go a year or 10 years or 50 years from now. Maybe I'd put it, you know, maybe my son would build a house right on our property line. Well, suddenly that whatever property line offset you have is dictating that house cannot go that close. It would have to be, you know, so that's impeding on property rights of a private citizen. We paid our taxes over the years for as long as we lived here. I appreciate you guys listening to members of this community. I think it's pretty telling as the last point that nearly all of the proponents of this project are not even just live outside Pot County. They don't even live in this state or bordering state. And the vast majority of the small number of individuals who have signed leases for these are out of state, out of county residents. They're absentee landlords. I think that's speaking quite loudly. Thanks.
Thank you, Jonathan. Yes, ma'am.
Joyce Isaacson, 12976 432nd Street, Carson, Iowa, 51525. I'm going to say that when we talk about Mid-America versus REC, I can tell you that REC has done really well with us. We built a house out in the country 16 years ago. We have never, thank you God, had an electricity bill over $200 in the whole time we lived there. And we do run horse tanks, we have garage, we run equipment. We have never had anything that high. So the electricity has done us well. I will not have propane and stuff on my farm because it bothers me. The lady that, or the people that say you'll get used to it, we put a radon detector thing in our house and it mitigates it. I hear it every time I walk up to our house. and it's very soft. Don't tell me that I'll get used to it, because I don't have to get used to somebody's wind turbine. There was a lady on a bus that I was on last year, and she said, "What are all these ugly things on your landscape, and why are you doing this?" I said, "I don't know. I guess the yuppie kids think that it's really cool and takes away the carbon footprint." But if you study it, these turbines 70% of it comes from another country. So you're building it over there, you're dragging it across the ocean, which uses energy, you're dragging them across the United States, which uses energy, you're putting them up, which uses energy. And I can tell you that my husband worked for Potawatomi County 42 years, and he was over in Walnut whenever that was all going on, and it destroyed the roads, and they aren't any good now even. It destroys the roads. It also takes up value. I worked for East Potawatomi County Farm Bureau for 23 years, and it destroys the land that these wonderful farmers put their heart and soul into. These farmers go out there and they feed the world, and we're going to take their land away from them. And like somebody said, it's not replaceable. You cannot bring back the land. Once they get their grip on that, it's going to be gone, and it's not right. And the other thing is, I have a dog in the fight because I live here. And all these people that came from out of state and out of county, they don't have a dog in the fight. They have money that they want, and that's what they are here for. That's all I got.
Thank you. Okay, one more? I see a hand back there.
I would like to allocate my time to charity.
Okay,
I guess I'll go now.
okay, come on forward.
Well, thank you. So I'm Charity Dewey. I live at 29085 Applewood Road in Silver City. So my take is a little bit different than a lot of the people here today because I'm not from Iowa. I grew up outside of Washington, D.C. My husband was in the military for 20 years, and he continues to work it off it today. We chose Southwest Iowa. Out of all the places we could have chosen over the river in Nebraska, we chose this area. We chose it for good schools. We chose it for the community. We chose it for our neighbors. It was a wonderful decision on our part, and I hope that it can continue to be a place that we raise our kids, because we have 4 of them. One of them's in the hallway making noises. Sorry about that.
It's okay.
So, you know, being a military spouse, I've lived in California, Virginia, Florida, South Carolina, North Carolina, and Iowa, and I have lived near nuclear plants, gas generators, coal plants, and I understand the need for energy diversity. When we lived in California, they shut down the nuclear plant there at Camp Pendleton, and we started having blackouts. I know that there was a natural disaster here a few years ago that has caused coal ash that's, you know, trying to mitigate that, but that's a natural disaster, and I've lived through those too, when hurricanes have hit our houses and fires have destroyed everything around us. So we have to take into account that that's not the typical way things operate. When we're talking about regulations in Iowa and across the United States, there's been over 400 rejections of wind and solar projects in the United States since 2015. There's been between 35 and 42 in Iowa alone. We've had 139 failures on wind turbines. That is anything from blade throw, fire, or total collapse of a wind energy generator, if that's what you want to call them. So to say that they don't happen is untrue. So when people like myself are talking about, you know, health impacts or safety impacts, and a wind company wants to come in and say, well, we don't have any documentation of that happening. Their landowners also signed non-disclosure and non-disparagement agreements. They've also agreed not to ever go after them legally. So what recourse do they have? Where can they go? They can't go to the news. They can't come to you without worrying, are they going to be sued for breaking that non-disclosure agreement or that non-disparagement agreement? I'm listening to our neighbors here talking about all of the different, you know, birds and bats. Okay, so we've got Hitchcock Nature Center, which records over 11,000 raptors of 20 different species. They come through every year in the fall and in the spring. And why do they do that? Because of the wind. And where are we going to put the wind turbines? Where the wind is the greatest. So how do we mitigate that? What happens when those actually start to account for deaths? Do we just go off of, well, Mid-American has a 20-year incidental take, it happens? Or do we say, let's turn them off during the seasons that they're traveling through the area? But then what happens to the rate of the consumer? When High Prairie started having large numbers of bats and eagles dying at their wind energy system in Missouri, they started shutting them off for 6 months. But then the energy company came back and said, well, we're going to raise your rates. We want to get permission to raise those rates. Well, economic development, Google, Facebook, Microsoft, all of these corporations, they want to look sexy. They want to have that green energy. But they also don't want to pay that increased rate either, which is why they came out swinging against Mid-American's Wind Prime last year and filed a joint complaint saying that they didn't want their energy costs to go up. It looks good, but nobody wants to pay the rate. And right now, we've got over 60% of Americans that are living in energy poverty, which means that they are having to choose between, are they going to buy groceries or are they going to pay their electric bill? I've seen it with my family. My husband retired last year. We've got an entire second income of retirement, and I don't know where that money is going. I can tell you it's probably going to groceries. And these policies that we have, this $370 billion that the government is investing in renewable energy, is raising the cost of all consumer goods for everybody here. So if we want to continue to have the argument that, oh, well, we need the money, we need the tax rates, or the tax income in the county, we need this to save our planet, that's not factual. We've got national security issues that would absolutely prevail if we go to a 100% renewable energy grid, which is what they're pushing for. We need energy diversity. We need to have, a good conversation about what happens to the people when those energy rates go up here in the county and people are already struggling to pay their bills. What is that going to look like? What have they promised? Speaking of promises, when they come in and they get their easements, which are really leases, with all of these people, and they promise you're going to have 6 turbines on your property, you're going to make this much money per year. Then they cite them, they put them out, and they cancel all the contracts they don't need. Does that person walk away with money? How much are they getting? They signed away thinking they were going to have money to give to their kids, their grandkids, to supplement their farm, their income. But then they cancel the contract. Their neighbors might have signed up thinking, oh, well, this guy's going to have all these turbines on his property. I'm going to have to live with it. I might as well sign up too. But then they don't get anything. There's a lot of things to consider when we're looking at this, and when we're seeing Invenergy and Mid-American and RWE in this room fighting for their projects, it's because this county has a very unrestricted ordinance as written today. You don't see that in the 35 counties that have restrictive ordinances. You don't have an invasion of renewable energy coming in and saying, hey, we want to build in Minden, in Griswold, in Trainer, in now they're down by Malvern, they're out by Red Oak, they're everywhere. Mills County has a restrictive ordinance of 80 feet. And when we had a meeting in the zoning board down there, it was because Mills County requires each energy company to come to them and present their project before they move forward. That is a fair policy, and it should be written into your policy as well, that they need to come to you, they need to present their project, they need to allow for questions, and maybe you write down those questions, and then you have them answer them, because when they hold a public meeting, they don't allow for questions. They don't allow, for public comment. They end the meeting, and then you can go up one by one and ask for your questions if you have time. And that's not fair to the people, because then you do get a lot of misinformation. You do get a lot of people talking in the background, and you don't know what to decipher as fact and as fiction. So I think that's about all I have to say today. I really hope that we can come up with an ordinance that respects the property rights of all landowners, and that should start at the property line. Last on solar, I know nobody's really said much about it. I hope you guys are looking into tapping into what they do to tap into our local water supplies, because that's important. Other counties have put on CSR limitations to highly producing agricultural ground to preserve it. Those things should also be part of the discussion when it comes to solar. That's my 2 cents.
Thank you, Sharon. Who's next? Is that it? Okay, we've talked about continuing this in another town.
Yeah, first off, I thank everybody that spoke today. We have heard from some landowners who weren't able to make it today and asked us to consider continuing this public hearing to another evening. So with that, Chairman Shea, I'll recess or continue the public hearing on November 29th, 6 PM at the Oakland Community Building in Oakland, Iowa. And the reason it's 2 weeks from today, I'm sure everybody's aware that next week's Thanksgiving. So give everybody a chance to get through that, and then we'll have continue this public hearing on the 29th of November.
29.
Actually, I take it next week. On the 23rd?
Thanksgiving.
Okay, all right, all right.
I'll
So you
second the
want to
motion.
recess until the 29th of November in Oakland, at what time?
6 o'clock.
6 PM. Got a motion and a second to continue. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carried. Thank you, everybody. Sure appreciate your time and effort in here. We are listening. Okay. Can we take a 5-minute break here?
Yeah.
Thank you for letting us.
Hey, that's what we're here for. I mean, all right. It's made a difference on me.
We saw, we heard a lot. You gotta have information. Yeah, the modular.
Nice to see you.
I've been anxious.
So it's,
I think I'm gonna
See you next
That's all we're gonna talk about. And, you know, maybe we should.
We need,
Yeah.
that's what put all this.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, yeah, we're not done.
We know we're not gonna be expanding coal generation, and I know that
If I want to watch,
switch
If you wanted to see where that, who that was, that is, hang on.
I got it.
Let's see, so Thomas Eichmann, Chad Eichmann.
They still, the wind doesn't blow all the time, and it takes wind. Maybe we're right to generate.
Oh, yeah, they do.
We have to have that back there.
And I,
Let
you
me,
know, I happen in favor of wind farms because if the whole farmers might end up with
that,
with a
well,
windmill.
it started out as
And it's
just
not about
Mid-American, just looking to see
the
what
money
they
for
did.
me and my wife, it's more for children and grandchildren. I wouldn't want to see anything, but
Christy Pitty.
that part's part of it.
Probably,
But
I don't think
I
it's
just
marked.
hear my son talking about it, because he's three, wind generation, if it wasn't for the tax credit, it wouldn't.
But it's more green as people that said that don't. want
Also, he
the
says,
turbines on.
Dad, you know,
That spoke to
why it's more expensive to generate wind, so well, you're stuck in the towers. Yeah, but one time just power you get from tower to tower.
Yeah, that's the inverter.
So the transmission, the wire is so expensive. And then you have
Scott, can I leave business contact with you all?
Oh, but there's your
you
record.
have to add all that. And what you make them accept that product, now they gotta run you first. But, yeah, it's interesting, listen to the arguments, I mean, it's both sides, so you got a tough one, yeah. But I wanted to meet you because I know
You sure could.
There's a lot of farmers. And one of our insured, so I
You with the white
spend a lot of time right now, he's going through wind issues with the wind they had in July. And so,
No, but it's not us,
it's like,
so.
when we were running, I said, hey, am I
Am I
going to
supposed to
vote for
bring
you,
or
Jeff?
what?
He said,
Now you were
no,
just-
he's E and I'm Owen.
My wife and I, my wife's originally
No.
I'm originally from Austin.
Just go in.
Okay.
But we
So,
moved in
nice to meet
95
you.
and moved into to trainer,
Yeah.
actually. And
Okay.
she started working at home. And the trainer at the time was like, about 900. There were 2 jobs. And we kept getting our mail mixed up.
Sure.
Because we had to post office. Yeah,
I enjoyed
it.
What?
I enjoyed
Well, there's several.
Yeah, I bet you did.
Yeah, I know another guy. Yeah.
There was a pharmacist here in town for about 3 years. And
Yeah,
then
that's the one I know, yeah.
There's another one, is it Trainer or Glenwood or somewhere. And when I used to take my beans to Bungie, they would mix us up, you know. I'd get his bills and he'd get my payment.
Thanks for your time today.
There's a
Thank you.
question about birds.
Appreciate it.
I laughed because I was working a hail farm north of Audubon a couple of years ago, and they had a new windmill there.
Yeah.
And I got close to that windmill, and like they say, when it goes past the tower, whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. But I'm close to the tower, and it's got 3 steps. And on the 3rd step, there was a robin's nest with eggs in it.
Oh, really?
That robin doesn't fear this turbine, but she ought to fear the foxglove.
Gotta have
They're gonna take those eggs.
Eat eggs, you honey.
Yeah.
Keep your energy up, huh?
It doesn't surprise me.
Just didn't want you to have to listen to my stomach rumble.
No, that's why I got a cookie. Thanks, Jeff.
Yeah, are they good, Brian?
They're excellent. Just,
See,
I'm trying not to eat much of that
yeah,
crap at this time of year.
But it's past my lunchtime and I'm getting hungry, so I might have to.
Me too.
Is this the last thing you have?
No,
No. You should have ordered.
hell no.
Yeah.
I missed breakfast because I was in our meeting.
Gina's got to
And
come.
now I'm waiting for you.
Hi, Gina.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good.
Jeff, are you ready to rock?
Yeah, now throw this way.
All right.
I think I'll be in.
Although, Brandon said there's cookies somewhere. I might go send.
Yep. there-
Always got one.
Yeah.
You don't need me to come over, mine's easy. Yeah, right on the counter.
The only
I'm gonna
one that
sneak
said
into
they
that
had
one.
94 units. What the other ones wanted to.
A lot of points made there.
Hi, Tina.
So quick, score right.
How are you? Good.
Come on, Jeff, let's go.
We need Melvin too.
Hmm?
We need Melvin too.
Where the hell did he go?
Jen, we'll make you the temporary clerk and we're gonna rock on.
We're still recording.
Hold on. Oh,
We're still in session.
he ain't out in the hall, is he?
Okay. And then I'll sit in the chair.
We can have Kristen be this temporary.
I did it for the board of
Yeah, it's about
review, not adjustment. Not out there.
All right.
Let's, Janet, record us.
Sorry.
We're recording already.
Okay, Jana Lemrek, Director of Human Resources, and Steve Winchell,
He's unable to
Captain.
make it.
Pardon?
He's unable to make
I
it.
can see that. Jail, discussion and/or decision on pay for certified medical aid candidate.
Hello. They have a very qualified med aid candidate that they'd like to make an offer to, similar to the med aid candidate that they recently hired. This candidate is coming in with 20-plus years of experience. And so Steve would like to offer them step 10 of the pay range, which is $23. The pay rate
$23.
at step 10.
I'll move that.
Second.
Was there more you were gonna say, Janet?
I was just gonna tell you the whole pay range. If you're curious, the range is 1841 to 2357.
Okay.
And we're going at 23.
Correct.
And it's in his budget.
Correct.
Got a motion to approve for $23 and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. That was simple.
Thank you.
Now I suppose Tina's will be difficult. There's
We don't have public comment.
committee appointments. Anybody got anything?
7A is gone. I'll make a motion to go into closed session pursuant to Iowa Code 21.5, parent 1, parent I, for discussion of personnel matters.
Second.
Okay. Do a roll call, please, Jana.
Chairman Shea,
Aye.
Supervisor Belt,
Yes.
Whitman, Miller. Aye. Jorgensen.
Aye.
Let's lock the doors, please.
Who made that motion? I'm sorry.
Whitman and Miller.
Thank you.
We're moving ahead. We didn't know what happened.